Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, my girlfriend is furious with me for not taking all of her daughters shopping. I'm 26, male, and my girlfriend, who's 33, is angry with me. I've been with my girlfriend just over a year, but we've known each other for about 3 years. We have mutual friends. She has 3 daughters who are 10, 13, and 14. The oldest daughter has a different dad than the younger two. While the younger daughter's dad has contact with them and takes them every other weekend, the oldest daughter's dad hasn't been in her life since she was born. She and her daughters moved in with me after 3 months together, which I know might seem like it was too soon, but her housing situation wasn't great. She was living with a friend from work. I don't have any kids of my own, so I don't really know how to be a parent, but I've always tried my best to support my girlfriend in her parenting decisions. 2 days ago, I finished work early, so I picked the girls up from school. They usually take the bus, but I called my girlfriend after I finished work, and she asked me to pick them up. When we got home, I heated up dinner for them, and afterwards I asked them if they wanted to go shopping with me and grab some pizza afterwards. The youngest two didn't want to go. Their friend was coming over, so they decided to stay home, but the oldest daughter wanted to come with me. So I took her to the mall, bought her some clothes, a new phone case, and some other small things. Afterwards, we went to grab pizza. After the pizza, I wanted to drop her off at home. My girlfriend was already back home from work by then, as I needed to go to a rental property of mine to fix up a few things, but she said she wanted to go with me, so we did. She spent most of the time on her phone, and she tried on some of the clothes she bought and showed me. We came home around 9 p.m., and that's when the fight broke out. My girlfriend was really angry at me for only taking the oldest daughter and not her other two. So I explained the situation about their friend coming over and that they didn't want to go with me. But she claimed I was favoring the eldest, which isn't true, as I wanted to take all 3 of them. We had a huge fight about it. It was our first serious fight. The oldest daughter stepped in my defense, but that didn't help. Since then, my girlfriend has been cold to me. I offered to take all 3 of them together another time, but she said she doesn't want my pity, and I don't really know how to fix things between us. Your girlfriend is being ridiculous and taking advantage of you. I agree. You sound like a truly awesome guy, and she has no clue how rare you are. You are not at fault, and the other 2 didn't want to go, and they had company coming over. You can take them separately, which is needed for multiple kids, so they get that one-on-one time with parents. She's being ridiculous. Don't back down from this when she engages about it. I would simply state, I'm sorry you don't see the true good intent in actions here, but I did exactly as any good adult or parent would in this situation on that day, and I will discuss this no further. And don't. She brings it up again, walk away. This kind of crap is why you don't move someone in after only 3 months. At only 3 months into a relationship, you shouldn't even have met her kids yet, let alone let them move into your home. A crappy home situation is not a good reason to move a girlfriend and her kids into your house. Buddy, you need to get out of this relationship as soon as possible. This woman will ruin your life if you stick around. Find the courage to leave and never look back. Man, you need a dose of reality, bro. A. This chick has 3 kids from 2 different dads, and you thought she was wifey material? Either those dudes realized what kind of a jerk she was and didn't want to put up with her BS, or she chose to leave them and take their kids away. Each time she was more jaded than before. B. Why you so desperate, bro? You don't have any kids, but you want to settle for a chick that has 3 of them, and you let them all move in after 3 months? I get that this chick must be hot, because there is no other reason anyone in the right mind would be as much of a sucker as you are. But you need to start being a bit smarter. C. She actually taught you a valuable lesson here. She wants your resources, bro. She's had many years of fun with lots of dudes and doesn't intend to stop. She just wants a provider like you, while she will still go out and hook up with hot guys, while you stay home and babysit. She wants the weak sucker who moves her in after 3 months, who she can use as an ATM, and you were the perfect candidate. Edit. Laughing out loud at everyone who's so upset about me pointing out the truth and calling out dude for being a moron. I'm betting most of you are single moms yourself, or dudes who have to settle for them. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his girlfriend? Please let us know. The things some people do for love. My fiance, 37 male, made me, 26 female, get plastic surgery just to get engaged. Now I want to call off the wedding. We've been engaged for 6 months now, and we're going to get married next spring. Our relationship has not been easy, and we dated for 2 years before getting engaged, and he broke up with me once in between for 5 months. Right now, I'm so conflicted. There was a time I was so eager to be engaged to him, and now I'm lost. First off, I kind of had to give an ultimatum to get engaged, to which he responded he has not proposed all this time because of something in my looks that he's not attracted to. He asked me to get a specific plastic surgery to correct this issue and that he would pay for it, and only then he's willing to get engaged. So I went ahead and got the surgery. Anyways, we get engaged, and I can still tell he's not that attracted to me because the surgery didn't really make a big difference. Doesn't compliment me, doesn't really touch me or initiate things with me. He doesn't complain or bash my looks, but doesn't rave about it either. But this isn't the worst of it. I'm currently in grad school, and he works full-time and makes over $500,000 a year. He's paying for the wedding, and he's rubbed it in my face on 2 occasions how I contribute nothing, and that I basically never have the right to complain about anything ever because he works so hard to pay for things. I complained once that I feel we don't spend enough quality time together. I just don't know if I'm making a huge mistake getting married to him. I don't want to be miserable. I'm so anxious. I don't feel like he loves me. He pushes me away when he's having a bad day and doesn't talk to me. I just feel kind of neglected in the relationship, but I also don't want to be a victim and consider maybe he's right about some things. Breaking an engagement off is so embarrassing, and this would be his 2nd broken engagement, and I don't want to do that to him. I just feel really lost. How do I go about this? Edit. The surgery I got was liposuction on my legs from thighs to ankles. I've always carried weight in my lower body. He says financially successful men don't like that look. Also, to those that ask what good qualities he has, I initially thought he was very kind, helps the poor, and goes on medical mission trips. He's a doctor. He is funny, and we actually get along really well when things are good. And I love his parents so much, and I really feel for them. They're older, and they want grandkids, and they want to see their son get married. I don't think they realize how mean he can be. I'm not going to pretend his money is not appealing. I didn't grow up with a lot of money, and I watched my parents struggle as immigrants. I always wanted to make sure my kids will grow up in a financially stable environment. It's not really gold digging because I'm not a materialistic person. I don't care for expensive things, just don't want to struggle like my parents did. To those who think I can get a prenup or divorce, our culture and community is very strict. I probably should have mentioned we are Middle Eastern. We don't get divorced. It's not an option here. He ended his first engagement, not her. He said she became too obsessed with the wedding planning and felt like a different personality of her had come out after she had secured the ring. Update. We broke up today, 48 hours after my initial post and over 1,000 people begging me not to get married. The wedding is off. This is how it went. He picked me up because we had our engagement photo shoot today. He has been depressed for over a month now over a real estate lawsuit that he started. He's already been putting me on the back burner because of this lawsuit and gives me zero attention, acts like I'm an added stressor in his life. So I'm already fed up with the mopey attitude. He starts going off about how he's not in the mood to take pics today, and that it's hard for him to smile, how drained and unhappy he feels over the house. I literally exploded. With everything that's happened, I couldn't take it anymore. I told him I've never met such a literal man-child in my life. For him to break down over a lawsuit he started. He's not fit to ever be the man, the sole provider of a family, to face real troubles of life. He's never had any real issues in his life. He is literally a man-child. I told him he never acknowledged how insane it is that I went and got surgery just for him to find me more attractive. He never recognized the care and sacrifice I made for him. I did take ownership for letting this relationship drag out as far as an engagement, after he showed me time after time how unfit he is to be a life partner. It is my fault. I ignored the red flags, and I kept having hope he would change one day. Maybe if I brought him a baby, he would start to appreciate me more. Maybe seeing me as a mother, he would start to love me. I'm so glad it didn't last long enough to find out. We didn't make it to the photo shoot, obviously. He ended up driving me back home. Sadly, we wasted the poor photographer's time. His reaction throughout all of this was very minimal. So cold. He would look down and look sad, but it looked like he was pretending. He said he was sorry and he thought I deserved better than him. He said his emotional battery had run out. This was the end of it. I gave him the ring back and told him we're never speaking again. He was just going to keep moving the goalpost. OP was never going to be good enough for him. Glad she got out. The ex should remain single since no one is going to fit his standards. He just wants someone to mold. This is based off the plastic surgery requirement and how it didn't make him happy. Also, does he not understand how people carry weight differently? He probably wanted OP to be like the wives of those successful men. Why do men date women a decade or more younger than them and then get mad that they're not on equal career footing to them? I mean, I know why. It's a built-in excuse to always have a means of making them feel bad about themselves. But logically, school and work take time, my guy. It's not magically gonna go faster for her than it did for you. Try dating a 37-year-old woman in your field. But something tells me you won't, because a doctor the same age as you with the same salary won't be nearly as easy to manipulate into getting surgery with some BS reasoning about whatever successful men are apparently attracted to. The fact that he was with a woman who didn't meet those requirements naturally kind of just shows you that he's not, by his own definition, a successful man. So congrats on failing, Doc. He's a career sociopath who wanted a trophy wife that he could control and mold. You, a senior citizen military veteran, can handle my hyperactive 7-year-old? Be my guest. This happened years ago with myself, a friend, my then boyfriend, and his daughter. We couldn't do much for toys for this particular Christmas, but our family was nominated for an event called Shop with a Veteran. It's where kids get to go in a Walmart with a veteran and can pick out their own Christmas gifts with a set amount of money donated by civilians and other veterans. The thing is, only the veteran can go in with them. I had later found out it was because some parents had earlier tried to persuade their kids to get things that were more catered to the parents or another kid instead of the kid who was nominated. My boyfriend's daughter was diagnosed with severe ADHD and had taken her medication, but she had gotten very excited when she found out about going to get Christmas gifts of her choosing. We found the lady hosting and explained to her about the daughter's ADHD and how she can be a whirlwind when she gets excited and how she doesn't like to listen to people she doesn't know. When we explained to the lady hosting the event that one of us should go in with his daughter just to make sure that she behaved, she understood and talked to the veteran who was going to do the shopping with her. He immediately argued, claiming he was tired of parents wanting to pressure their kids into getting things they didn't want, and he wanted the daughter to have a good time picking out her gift. The lady tried to explain the situation, but the veteran wouldn't hear any of it. I can clearly remember him grumbling at us, "I've been to war. I can handle a kid." Well, in that case, after the veteran took the daughter into the store, we saw two friends going in who we didn't know would be there, but they were happy to see them. My boyfriend caught up with them and asked one of them if they could keep an eye on the daughter and the veteran. My boyfriend then emphasized that the veteran clearly thought he could handle his daughter, so let him handle her. We waited for about an hour when the veteran returned with the daughter. She was grinning ear to ear at all the presents she was able to get. The veteran looked exhausted and like he had been through heck. He then yelled at us that the daughter was the most disrespectful brat he had ever met, how she had to touch all the toys and threw everything she wanted into the shopping cart, and she was a nightmare when he told her she couldn't have everything she picked out. My boyfriend packed his daughter's gifts in the car and then took her back inside to start our grocery shopping. We couldn't do it while she was in there with the veteran because we had to wait outside for when they were done so we could immediately take her and her gifts. Understandable, they weren't babysitters. I decided to talk to the veteran and told my boyfriend that I'd meet him inside. I asked him if he was okay. He said he was fine, but why didn't we tell him our daughter was crazy? I promptly corrected him by saying she was not crazy. I explained her ADHD to him and how we only wanted to go in with them so she would behave. We know that she knows to behave around us, school, and grandma's house, how she doesn't like to listen to strangers, even if we know them and she doesn't. I apologized and told him that not all parents want to go in to use this as an excuse to get their own gifts. Some genuinely just want to make sure their kids behave. Later in the store, our friend caught up with us and told us everything that had happened. The daughter had run up and down the toy aisles. She kept going back and forth from the toys to the cart, throwing in anything she could get her hands on. She even screamed at the veteran when he put some of the toys back. Typical behavior when her normal authority figures aren't watching. When she was satisfied with the toys she did get, she kept asking for candy at the checkout, which she asks anyone for when we go to the store. It was amusing to us that a grizzled military veteran was outmatched by a hyperactive 7-year-old. Since then, we've been better off, and we donate money to this event every year, and even toys for any toy drive they have. The veteran still does the event, but he's more understanding when certain kids need their parents with them. He does get the odd, pushy parent now and then, but he handles them rather than flat out denies all parents going in. I took my nephew to Toys R Us once. It was a nightmare. I had no experience with kids. Logic did not work. Asserting authority did not work. Threats did not work. Bribes didn't work. Tantrums were fierce. We could not exit the place without a full meltdown. I could not negotiate the highs and lows he was experiencing. We thought it would be a fun visit. It was terrible. Never again. The nephew did not have ADHD, just a normal kid who probably needed his parents in that environment. Am I the jerk for telling my husband's kids, who are 24 and 22, that my house isn't their family home? I married my husband 2 years ago. He has 2 kids, a daughter who's 24 and a son who's 22. He had a very nasty divorce from their mom that was fought out over the course of years. Part of the reason for the marriage ending was that she had an addiction problem and blew through their savings and was running up the credit cards he didn't know about to pay for it. The divorce finalized when the youngest was 16. She wanted the house in the divorce, which was a big part of the fight. She ended up getting it. She immediately moved in her addict boyfriend and another couple that they used with, and the house ended up getting destroyed and falling into foreclosure, and then they proceeded to squat in it and had to be forcibly removed. Because my husband and his ex ended up also having to file bankruptcy, he had been living in a friend's basement when I met him due to his credit being wrecked. Fast forward, we are married, he moves into my house, got a prenup. He can't be on the mortgage due to his credit anyway. His ex and kids are living with grandparents. His kids and his ex don't like me. They refer to me as that jerk, but at this point, they are all adults, so I'm not going to force anything on them. Grandparents recently had to sell their home and they're now living with their mom's friends. They asked if they could move in with us, and I said no. Both got angry and started telling me that this was their dad's home, and that makes this their family home too, and it wasn't up to me if they could live here or not. They started spouting off every insult they could think of. I interrupted them and told them it was in fact not their family home, and if they were looking for their family home, they need to go talk to their mom because she chopped it up and put it up her nose, and that wasn't my problem. A huge part of the reason I don't want them here is that their mom has since squatted at multiple places, forcing roommates to have to threaten her with eviction to get her out, and basically told the last one she would leave for a certain amount of money. The kids and her are very close, and I don't want that happening in my house. We also have reason to believe the oldest may be using. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. Get cameras for your house in case you don't have them already, just to be safe. I can't believe they talk to you like that, but then expect to move in. No way. Am I the jerk for telling my mother-in-law to take her darn cookies and get out of my house? My twin daughters are both 18 and they took their SAT last month. The results came back yesterday. One of my daughters, Laura, did very well. She got a 1540 and is very proud, as she should be. Her sister, Emily, didn't do so well. She got somewhere in the low 1300s, and I know that this is still not a bad score at all. But she worked very hard for the test and was really disappointed with her score. She has always struggled more with schoolwork than her sister, who does better without having to try as hard. Not to minimize any effort, Laura does work hard as well, but it does come a bit easier for her. My mother-in-law has always favored Laura, mostly because she does better in school. She won't show it very obviously, but in little ways. For example, she makes them a birthday cake most years and always writes Laura's name bigger and first. Emily resents this a bit, but doesn't mind too much as they rarely see their grandma. Only Laura regularly video calls with her and my husband. My mother-in-law called yesterday to ask the girls how they did. Emily said she didn't want to talk to her. She told me, not my mother-in-law. So I only gave the phone to Laura. Laura said her score, and her grandma congratulated her excitedly. My mother-in-law then asked Laura how Emily did. Laura said Emily did all right. When I got the phone back, my mother-in-law asked if she could come visit tomorrow to congratulate Laura. I said, let me check quickly if anything else is happening tomorrow, and I asked Emily if her grandma can come over to celebrate the results. Emily said that was fine, so I told my mother-in-law she could come over. My husband was at work when she came over. She brought a box of cookies and gave it to Laura, saying she was proud. Emily was standing there too and looked hurt. I asked if she had brought anything for Emily. She laughed a little and said not this time, but she'll make even better cookies when Emily does her retest. No one told her she was retesting. My mother-in-law just assumed. Emily went upstairs and I think she was crying. So I told my mother-in-law very sharply that she can take her darn cookies and get out. She was shocked and angry, but she left. Laura is also upset because she says she earned it and I'm ruining her relationship with her grandma. My husband says I had no right. Am I the jerk? I think you should sit your kids down together and separately explain. Grandma's favoritism is not okay. Someone who does better at school is not better as a person. Explain to both Laura and Emily that someone may simply do better at school, but this does not in any way mean they will be more or less successful in life. And explain to Laura how Grandma's actions made Emily feel. Also explain to Emily that Laura can and should be proud of her achievements, and that lastly, if Emily worked really hard, that's all you can ask for. Buy both of your daughters cookies, not the jerk. As a twin myself, and the Laura in this situation, you're the jerk. Laura speaks to her grandmother more often and has a closer relationship with her. Fact. Laura had better results. Fact. Her grandmother wanted to celebrate Laura, and you took that away. If you're not careful, Laura will grow up and continue to foster the relationship with her grandmother who celebrates her success, instead of the mother who refuses to celebrate her for fear of upsetting Emily. Emily will have to get used to her score and her options in life. That's reality, and you're not helping her manage that. I understand why you were upset with your mother-in-law, as she wasn't very compassionate in this situation, but I urge you to look at the way you're dealing with your kids. Treating them exactly the same now is setting Emily up for failure and Laura up for resentment. You're the jerk. Sounds like Laura makes more effort to be in Grandma's life, and Grandma returns the effort with her. If Emily wants to be loved the same, maybe she should put some effort forward too. You don't get to ignore Grandma and then cry when Grandma favors someone that does. Am I the jerk for refusing to have a fully child-free wedding? So I recently proposed to my long-term girlfriend, and we're planning for a wedding in summer next year. Everything is still very early stages. My fiancé has expressed that she wants a child-free wedding, which I'm down for, but I want to make one exception, my son who's 15. I had him from a previous relationship, and we have evenly split custody of him. Until now, my fiancé has gotten along great with him. We've had days out as a family. She's gone to see his games. He plays ice hockey, and she's even taken him out on fun days, just the two of them. I brought up that I wanted to make an exception to the no kids rule for my son. She shot down the idea straight away and said that she didn't want anyone under 16 there, as she doesn't want to feel like she or anyone else has to babysit on her special day. I told her that no one would have to babysit him. He's 15, and she knows he's well behaved and a generally quiet kid. She then changed her reasoning and asked why I wanted my old family and life on the day I was supposed to be making a commitment to her and our new family. I told her while I will be making a commitment to her, my son will still very much be my son and my family. She then equated it to wanting my ex at our wedding, which I do not want and never asked. I told her that I don't care about the aesthetics of the wedding and that she can pick everything else, the food, the aesthetic, the music, the dress, but all I want is my family at the wedding. My parents, my sisters, and my son. This is my only ultimatum when it comes to our wedding. She started calling me controlling by giving me an ultimatum and said I had initially agreed to a child-free wedding and now I'm gaslighting her. I said we can have a mainly child-free wedding, but with this one exception, an exception that guests can't even complain about being unfair since the only kid is the son of the groom. She called me a jerk and is now not talking to me. I really think this is a reasonable want, but maybe I'm not seeing something. So, am I the jerk? Wow, she doesn't want your own kid to come to your own wedding? And not a crying baby or a terrible 2-year-old, but a 15-year-old? A kid that will be old enough to drive next year when the wedding is? If this goes on as she wants, do you think your kid won't remember? Sorry, bud. This is all kinds of evil stepmother red flags, the whole thing about you making a new commitment to her and her family, and equating having your son there to having your ex-wife there. Get out now while you just have to eat the non-refundable deposits for this wedding. Save yourself and your kid a world of hurt. You would be the jerk if you marry this woman. Edit. You have never had a fight like this before because up to this point, she's been putting on a show. But now she's comfortable enough in this relationship to show you who she really is. My Karen wife won't let my mother come visit us for Christmas. My wife, my mom, and I have a huge point of contention when it comes to visits. We live about a 7-hour plane ride away from my mom, and there hasn't been a single visit in 5 years. My wife and my mom never had a great relationship. It wasn't too terrible, but just very different people, and they get on each other's nerves, so my wife doesn't want her to stay in the house. It makes me sad, but my wife feels the home needs to be a sanctuary, and no one who upsets her should be allowed to stay in her sanctuary, and I chose to support that. Her ideal visit would be my mom staying at a hotel and having designated visiting times. My mom says we can make our rules, but we can't seriously expect her to put her time and effort into traveling to stay at a hotel. I also understand that train of thought. My wife, however, thinks my mom owes it to our kids to make the effort. My mom says my wife is selfish for expecting her to sacrifice her time, effort, and peace of mind just to be treated like a burden. I've told my wife to leave it alone. I called my mom recently to talk, and my wife came over and began making digs about how the kids don't recognize my mom and were asking if I actually have parents. My mom said my wife needed to leave the conversation or she was going to hang up. My wife said it's so sad that my mom won't just come and see her grandkids because she feels entitled to stay in our house. I just snapped and told my wife that she needs to stop acting entitled to my mom's time, energy, the money it would take to visit, and that she's the entitled one. My mom began laughing and my wife looked devastated. I quickly hung up and I tried to talk it out with my wife, but she was furious and said I broke a cardinal rule of marriage by calling her out in front of my mom. I do get that, but I've given her my opinion in private so many times. Oh, there's so much more to this story. Your mom didn't just get relegated to a hotel for nothing. How long does she expect to stay? I've had relatives come visit for 4 to 5 weeks at a time in a small house. After the last visit, I said nope, hotel. The visit ends terribly when it's that long. Having so many adults crammed in a small space for too long isn't pleasant for anyone. I think it's completely reasonable for your wife to ask your mom to stay in a hotel. Visit all day together, but retire to separate places to decompress. I also think it's sad that your mom doesn't come to visit her grandkids. I'm team wife all the way. You're the jerk. My wife feels the home needs to be a sanctuary, and no one who upsets her should be allowed to stay in her sanctuary. This is an eminently reasonable approach. But you are the reason your mom does not see your kids. You could take them and visit her. So your wife is right. You and your mom are not interested enough to make it happen. You're the jerk. Typical mama's boy who refuses to support his wife when it comes to his mama. If I were your wife, this crap would so not fly with me. I'd kick you out in a heartbeat and file for divorce. It doesn't matter what the argument is about. As a good husband, you're supposed to support your wife no matter what, especially when it comes to entitled in-laws like your mother, who honestly sounds insufferable. Is it your mom's house? No. So why should she get to come and stay there whenever she wants against your wife's wishes? Selfish little man babies like you do not deserve to be married, period. Both of my ex-husbands ended up being mama's boys, and look where that got them. Divorced, and both paying me alimony for many years to come. Bottom line, want to keep a beautiful woman? Stop choosing your mom over her. Grow up and be a man. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. Am I the jerk for accepting my family's Christmas invitation despite my husband being upset? I, female 32, met this wonderful man, Philip, male 36, 2 years ago. We got married 4 months ago. For context, I have a 10-year-old son, Billy, from my previous relationship, and my ex isn't in the picture. I have to admit that Philip's relationship with my family isn't so great. They would disagree on a lot of things. For example, he had an argument with my dad when he said that he was keeping their grandson away from them, but Philip stated he wasn't, and that he couldn't visit with Billy because he had work. I was sick at the time. The latest argument was what made things worse. My mom and sister were discussing natural remedies, they're into this stuff, for my niece, and Philip, he's a pediatrician, called both of them ignorant for not using meds instead, which caused a huge argument and Philip being no longer welcomed at my parents' house. Now, they sent me and Billy an invitation for Christmas, but did not include Philip, which I expected given how strained their relationship has become. I called my mom to confirm that I'll attend, but the minute Philip found out, he went off saying he could not believe I was fine with my family excluding him, and then agreed to go and leave him behind. I told him it's their celebration, and I don't get to decide their guest list for them. And also, I'm not leaving him behind because he did not have any plans for Christmas. He said he thought that we'd automatically celebrate together, the three of us, but now I'm taking Billy away from him as well. I thought that was a bit melodramatic because it's literally just a few hours at my parents' home, but he insisted it was about principle and respect. We had a big argument, and I said that he basically alienated himself by continually picking arguments with my family, and he started ranting, saying it wasn't about the fact that they didn't invite him, but the fact that I was willing to let him spend Christmas alone without me and Billy. We went back and forth on the issue, but did not seem to reach a solution. My parents are used to spending every major holiday with Billy, so you can see how much pressure I'm getting from both sides here. You're the jerk. He's your husband and he's done nothing wrong. 1. Your dad picked a fight because he had to work and you didn't defend him. 2. You're encouraging your mom to be an idiot and not be knowledgeable on medications and wanting to do natural healing. And when your husband, as a medical professional, stated the facts, you let them be terrible to him. You think it's okay to leave your husband alone on Christmas because they're being horrible to him. And I'd be upset too that you're not doing anything to defend him when he's done nothing wrong. You're taking their side, and in doing so, it shows that you don't care for your husband. Keep this up, and he will leave. Maybe Mom can calm the situation down with some lavender oil. How are you not outraged that your parents left your husband out of the invitation to spend Christmas with them? And how could you possibly contemplate leaving your husband alone at Christmas? Do you actually want to be married to him? You accepted an invitation which excludes him, and you think this is reasonable? You're the jerk. You're the jerk. You're right, you don't get to decide their guest list for them. However, you do get to decide whether or not to spend Christmas with your husband. Every married couple I know would automatically expect to spend Christmas together. Not the jerk. Your husband had no right to talk to your parents like that. He's a fraudster who capitalizes off the pharmaceutical industry. I can't tell you how many so-called doctors have told me that my kids need to be on all that crap. I tell them the same thing every time. God put us on this world thousands of years ago, and we never needed this stuff before. Why the heck would we need it now? Oh yeah, we don't. You just want to line your pockets by taking advantage of me and my family. Son having seizures? Oh, he needs to be on these 3 different medications, which will run you $1,000 a month. Daughter's blood sugar too high? Oh, she needs to be on this and that, which costs $700 a month, and test her glucose every 12 hours. When did people stop trusting in the power of prayer and decide to fall victim to the lies of these fraudsters? I feed my kids natural diets, which consists mostly of fruits and veggies. You'd be surprised how many high-quality fruits and veggies are now sold at the dollar store. Don't believe all the organic nonsense. Any fruits and veggies are 1,000 times better than the crap they feed your kids at school. This is also part of why I homeschool all 6 of my kids. I refuse to allow them to be taught the false his story that is taught in schools now. I teach my kids the truth of how we got here, what our purpose is, the light work that we were put here to do. I teach them that they are in fact star seeds who are here to change the world. 5 of my 6 kids are indigo children, and 1 is not an indigo, unfortunately. He also doesn't look a thing like his siblings, which really was a disappointment to me. He gets angry every time I tell him that even though he's not special like the others, he can still make a difference in the world. It just won't be as powerful as his siblings. He's the one that doctors told me needs to be on antidepressants, and I tell them every time that no, he doesn't need that. He's just disappointed that he's not an indigo, and he has to accept it. I can tell they look down on me for my beliefs, which is unfortunate since so many are awakening to the light. In truth, love, and light, namaste. And this is why I believe that not everyone out there is cut out to be having kids. You can say that again. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. You spend Christmas with your spouse and your kid. In-laws inviting you but excluding them is way out of line. I don't think Philip's gonna be sticking around with her too much longer. My Karen roommate stole from me, so her wallet vanished. Back in college, I had better credit than my 3 other roommates, so I put our internet and TV under my name, otherwise the deposit would have been $600. The cable company offered me a $300 Visa gift card upon sign-up. 2 months later, I called them because the gift card never arrived. They tell me that they sent it a few weeks ago, and eventually I'm able to find out from Visa that someone used it at the Whataburger, Target, and liquor store near my house. I'm ticked off because obviously one of my roommates had used it, but I didn't know which one. A few weeks later, roommate number 2 complains that their $200 birthday gift card to Target has gone missing. His mom still had the receipt, and the store was able to tell her that someone used it at the Target near our house. He's obviously ticked off too, but we've now realized it's probably one of the other 2 roommates. A couple of weeks after that, roommate number 3's wallet disappears. We turned the house upside down looking for it, and we knew it had to be in the house because her car key is attached to her wallet, and her car is parked at the house. She is absolutely frantic, sobbing, screaming, hyperventilating, etc., throwing crap everywhere, and just having an absolute meltdown while tearing the house apart. We had never seen her behave like this, so we're all kind of surprised she'd be that upset about her wallet. It's stressful, sure, but I genuinely was concerned about how she was reacting. She says the gift card thief must have taken it, implying that it's roommate number 4, the only person who hasn't had something stolen yet. A few days after that, I found her wallet in the trunk of my car. We had gone to get groceries together, and I guess she had just laid it in the trunk while we were unloading. I'm like, "Whoa, I found your wallet." And then I open it up because I'm just excited to confirm that I did indeed find her wallet. Bam! Both stolen gift cards front and center. No doubt. The Visa gift card has my name printed on it, and roommate number 2's mom had written something in Sharpie on his gift card. I realized she had a meltdown because she was afraid we'd find out that she was the thief. I left the wallet, cash and all, right where it was, pushed up against the inner lip of the trunk so you couldn't see it unless you leaned further into the car. A locksmith wouldn't make her new keys without the title, and the title was in the glove box of her locked car. All in all, she spent about $500 replacing her driver's license, title, and keys, not to mention not being able to drive her car for 2 weeks. I moved out of state with her wallet still in my car, finally tossed it in the trash several months later. Sometimes the universe assists you with petty revenge. Sorry if you see this, Chelsea. It was me. This happened over 10 years ago, and I'm happy to report that we've all gone to therapy since then, and we're thankfully no longer terrible human beings. A couple of things to address. Why didn't you confront her? I hated confrontation. I was a huge people pleaser, and I wanted everyone to like me, and I enjoyed watching her suffer. Again, therapy. I'm thankfully no longer like this. Visa gift cards don't have names. Some of them do. The Target gift card itself said happy birthday, and my friend's mom wrote, "To my favorite son," underneath. It was still semi-legible when I found her wallet. Locksmiths don't make car keys. Apparently, some do. In the end, she had her car towed to the dealership. I do remember she called a locksmith the first day her wallet was missing because she initially thought it was in her car. She was super mad that the locksmith charged her for the weekend visit without actually unlocking her car. Was he taking advantage of a stupid college kid? Maybe. This was over a decade ago. I was 21, and I'm sure that my brain did not fully absorb the details of her whole ordeal. Turn her into the cops. Bro, have you met college students? Do you know how much illegal stuff they do? It briefly crossed my mind, but petty revenge was far more satisfying. She had an absolute meltdown and missed a few days of work at a newish job dealing with all of this. Am I the jerk for telling my son's pregnant girlfriend that if she keeps disrespecting me, I'll kick her out of my house? I, 43 female, have a son who's 18, who got his high school girlfriend, who was also 18, pregnant. It was obviously an unplanned pregnancy, and it resulted in my son's girlfriend getting kicked out of her house by her mom. I never liked the girl, but I obviously couldn't let her live on the streets now that she's carrying my grandbaby, so I let her live in our house. Now both she and my son gave up on college for the near future, and my son is now working a full-time job so he can provide for them in the future. The problem is that his girlfriend refuses to do anything, absolutely anything all day. She just locks herself in my son's room eating snacks and watching videos on my son's computer. I need to drag her out to just help me with cooking and to clean up at least the room she's staying in. But she's always complaining about how I'm working her like a slave, even though she's already in constant pain because of her pregnancy, and then she'll come crying to my son about the treatment of her. Mind you, she doesn't have a high-risk pregnancy. I know that because my husband and I are the ones who are fully paying for her medical controls, and I don't put her up to do tasks like cleaning the toilet or anything similar. However, she really crossed the line when after I got dressed up, she asked me where I was going, and I told her I was getting ready for church. Her exact response was, "I didn't know there were churches that allowed people to dress the way that you are." At that point, I absolutely had it with her, and I told her straight up that I don't care who she is. I won't allow her to disrespect me while living in my house, and if she can't keep her attitude in check, then she can get out of my house. She pretty much started crying at that point and immediately called my son, who later on also gave me an attitude for treating his girlfriend like garbage when I don't know what she's going through. Eye roll. My husband also thinks that while she was definitely out of line, that she was probably only acting out because of pregnancy hormones, and that I could have handled the situation better without straight up threatening to leave her homeless. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. You should make it clear to your son that his girlfriend needs to earn her keep ASAP. Not the jerk. She needed the wake-up call. You're all she has. Don't bite the hand that feeds you. You called your son who later gave you attitude? Son also needs a firm reminder of who is doing whom the favors. Not the jerk. Keep your word of kicking her out if she's disrespecting you again. You're paying for everything. She's not being mistreated. Pregnancies do not cause unabling pain, and she can at least make the bed. Not the jerk. But why is everyone siding against the pregnant mom in this story? Oh yeah, that's right, because it's not the husband calling her out for her bad behavior. When the husband or boyfriend is the one calling her out for this type of behavior, you all tell him he's in the wrong and she's carrying his baby and he needs to step up. Just another day on Reddit, I guess. Same punishment for being 5 minutes late as being 3 hours late? Sure, no problem. So I'm working for a low-level corporation, about 450 employees. I've been there for 5 years, and I've risen to the top of my department's productivity levels. I mention this as it does pertain to the story. Management had a policy that latecomers would be penalized, but that lateness could be excused under some circumstances. I was good at my job, and I actually loved doing it, so I was more or less a dream employee. I always showed up to work 20 to 30 minutes early because I liked to sit in the lunchroom and prepare for my day. Management knew I was almost always early, so if I was late from time to time, which was rare, they'd let it slide as there was always a valid reason. Now, for some other employees, this latitude wasn't applied. Chronically late employees would get written up and not have their constant lateness excused. They'd complain, of course, but management was firm. They ran an actual meritocracy where more productive employees would experience preferential treatment. Then the business gets sold and we get new management. An international corp only interested in buying us up, stripping us down, and selling off the company. They denied this constantly, but the fact that over the next 2 years they stripped us down and sold off the company proved they were lying. New management comes in and has to make a bunch of idiotic changes. One of those changes is that no reasons for being late are accepted, regardless of validity. Anyone 5+ minutes late for work would be written up. So at the team meeting where this is explained, I asked, so if someone is 5 minutes late and someone else is 3 hours late, the punishment is the same? And they said yes. From that day on, I stopped coming in early. I'd still head to work at my usual time, but I sat in a local coffee shop instead of my work's lunchroom. This meant that my work missed out because in the past I would often help out by answering questions, even start work early if needed. Because I loved my job and the old management were wonderful people. No more of that under new management. In fact, if something happened, like unexpected traffic, and I was going to end up a few minutes late, I'd just say, oh well. If being 3 hours late is the same punishment as 5 minutes late, I'd just decide to come in later. I'd call work to tell them I was delayed, then go out and have a leisurely meal in a restaurant, or run some personal errands, go shopping, even see a movie, etc. Depending on my mood and how crappy the new management had been lately, what would have been, say, a 7-minute lateness on my part ended up seeing me roll in 3 hours late. Sure, it cost me a few bucks, but I made almost as much in bonuses as I did in hourly salary, so missing out on a few hours here and there didn't bother me too much. I'd come in 3 or 4 hours late, and my new bosses would be fuming. Nothing they could do though, but write me up for the basic tardy, same as they would do if I had been 5 minutes late. Father spoke for his son the entire time. Son ended up coming back to apologize for his father's behavior. I worked at a sporting goods store about 1.5 years ago. It was a fun job. I mostly worked a few hours per week since I had another job doing retail at that time. I mostly worked in the baseball section since baseball is my favorite sport. I had a good time overall until I had to quit when I went off to college. One day, a dad and his son, who was 14 if I remember right, came into the store and were checking out all the new gear for the season. I asked his son his position, what level he plays at, and what hand he throws with. The dad answers for him, kinda snobbishly. He plays elite travel ball, he's a right-handed shortstop. I thought nothing of it at first. I played travel ball and I know the bat's allowed, and also know the types of parents that get their kids into it. So I take him to the gloves first. He grabs a lower-priced infield glove, maybe $170 or so. It's the glove I use, so I recommended it to him. It's really a great glove. Then the dad sees the $300 A2000 and says, "We'll take this one," before his son even tried it on. I could tell his son was not thrilled, and this was probably not his first rodeo with his dad making choices for him. Then we move over to the bats. Now this is where things get a bit interesting. I ask his son his height, and his dad again answers. I recommend a bat size, and they browse for a bit. His son follows my recommendations and picks out one that he likes. Again, not the most expensive, but it does look cool. Honestly, at his age, the bat doesn't make much of a difference since regulations are tight on what's allowed in the league anyway. His dad then picks up a bat 2 inches too big for his son. He should be swinging a 31 inch. He might be able to get away with a 32 if he's strong, but a 33, what his dad picked up, is too big for his son until he hits a growth spurt. I explained this to the dad. He didn't care. He just wanted the most expensive bat. It was kind of clear to me that it was not even about his son at this point. It was about the dad gearing him up to appear better than the other kids. I'm still trying to explain to his dad, from my own personal experience being a smaller kid, that a large bat is not the best idea for him. His dad says, "I know what's best." His son looked upset, and I felt bad for him. I could tell he was passionate about baseball. He was not in it to look cool, but genuinely did research on what's best for his use case. The products he gravitated towards were all great for him. The last thing before they got cleats, out of my department, is batting gloves. His son asks me which gloves I like to use, so I go to tell him before the father cuts me off and says, "These ones look good." Guess what? They had the highest price tag as well. They are great gloves, but it's not worth the extra price in my opinion. They walk away to get the cleats and ring out with me. Their total was hundreds more than it had to be, and the son did not even get to pick out what he wanted. He came in a few weeks later with his older brother to get another bat since the one his dad picked up for him was too big. Him and his brother were both very grateful for my help, and they apologized for their father. I talked to him a bit about baseball, and he really was just in it for fun. He told me his dad puts a lot of pressure on him and spends tons of money for him to get a spot on the expensive travel team, but he just wants to go out there and have fun with his friends. He also told me that the pressure has made him think about quitting. He said, "I love baseball, I really do, but my dad wants me to be the best, and I'm not that. I just want to have fun with my team." I gave him a pat on the shoulder, and I told him he's the best player he can be. Looked to his older brother, who told him the same thing. Not gonna lie, I got a bit emotional after they left. That moment has stuck with me for over a year now, and it really does suck how much parents dump money into their kids' sports instead of just letting them play and have fun. In my time working there, I have seen lots of parents similar to his father, only wanting the most expensive products, while not even critically questioning if those products are the best ones to buy for their use case. Am I the jerk for telling my wife I don't want to live more in line with my wealth and social status? I've been with my wife since university. We've been together for 14 years, married for 8. My practice has been doing very well, and I do have joint finances with my wife. We have recently been arguing more about money. I'm a frugal person when it comes to things like materialistic items. I'm all for spending on trips and adventures, and we do so often. I just despise spending money on items that overly show my wealth. My wife has made claims that it's unfair and embarrassing that we live the way we do. She wants to be more in line with her friends. I've told her countless times that it's simply not my style. I'm fine with what we have. I don't need to show off or prove something to others. I do understand, and I see that people do talk about us, but I just don't care. Should I have listened to my wife's pleas and given her the finer things, so to speak, so she would feel more included or less of an outcast? Edit. Thanks for the replies and insight. I will speak with her in the morning and try to come up with a compromise. Maybe I'll suggest she can go back to work part-time. I'll still cover every joint expense, and the money she gets from work she can use however she sees fit. Edit. I didn't expect this to blow up. I've been given a lot of time to think about it, and I've been enjoying the discussion that's being had. This sounds like me and my husband. My husband is very frugal. He's more interested in the utilitarian aspect of things. I like pretty shiny things. It actually works when you realize it's a good thing to let the other partner have their way once in a while. My husband makes sure I don't run our finances into the ground with my extravagant tastes, and I make sure he doesn't drive around in a car that looks like a piece of junk. Going to tell you right now that you have 2 choices you will be facing very shortly. 1, you give in to your wife's materialistic desires and spend more money. Or 2, your wife will divorce you and take half of what you own so she can live the life she wants. You're not the jerk for wanting to be frugal, but be careful here. You're very close to losing half of your stuff. These comments are just dense. Not the jerk, but your wife is. If she wants a luxurious lifestyle, she can get a job and pay for it. I'm sorry, but expecting your partner to provide unnecessary luxury items is ridiculous. This would be a great post to swap the genders on and see the moral outrage. So after reading all of OP's comments in this thread, here's what we know. 1, they do not have kids, nor do they plan to. 2, she stopped working at the start of lockdown and she doesn't want to go back to work. 3, she spent $15,000 shopping last month. 4, they live in a safe home in a diverse community. She says she feels unsafe but won't elaborate on why. Decent chance she's a jerk. And 5, she forces him to wear her hand-picked outfits when they hang out with her friends. At best, she's a lazy gold digger. At worst, she's a manipulative, controlling jerk. The truth is probably in the middle. Not the jerk, and OP losing half of his crap would totally be worth it to divorce. No one sucks here, but here's the thing, neither is wrong, but neither is right. Your wife deserves some nice things, and you deserve to have savings. You guys need to make compromises. My husband and I are getting ready to move. We're working on compromises of his desire for a really nice home versus my desire for a frugal home. I feel you, I really do. I'm working on realizing that he deserves nice, and so do I. I wonder if part of my issue is that I don't feel I deserve nice because I had a bad upbringing. So my question is this: why do you think you should live in a poverty lifestyle when you make a decent amount of money? OP: because I don't mind it, to be honest. I've been to my friends' houses, and if I'm being honest, it doesn't feel like a home. I prefer the more homely feel of a modest house. I don't need people to know that I have money. I'm happy with what we have. It's okay to have a modest home, but if your home is like your car, it's not a modest home. It's a falling apart home. OP: my car is also not falling apart. Just because it's older does not mean that it's a junker. Not sure where you got that our home is falling apart, but it's not. What is the average life expectancy of the car that you have, and roughly how long until you achieve that? What are some of the expected failures and repair costs associated with it? Would you be able to compromise in purchasing a used luxury vehicle? Look, there's a reason this guy has the money he does and you guys don't. You're foolish. Not the jerk. First off, I'm female, and I've had a long and successful career in marketing. In my world, my colleagues and I are open and honest with each other about things that you'd never hear us say in mixed company, and that Reddit probably won't want to hear. The truth is that most marketing campaigns are geared towards women because they are generally more easily converted into customers than men are. I could write a thesis about this stuff, but I'll spare you the boredom. The main reason why is because of how our brains operate and the reward factor of obtaining something new. It's a biological thing that goes way back into our history as humans. Men typically feel more rewarded when they accomplish something, whereas women feel more accomplished when they obtain something. Even most of the campaigns I've worked on that target male customers target their desire to attract women. Fitness, finance, real estate, vehicles, etc. Edit: wow, I knew some of you would be upset about this, but some of you are taking it to the next level. Okay, guess I'm wrong then. The person with CMO of $1 billion company on their resume is totally wrong, and all you Redditors are right. Sure. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or his wife? Please let us know. If you're frugal and you like to not waste money on unnecessary expenses, don't marry someone who's very materialistic. It totally won't be worth it. There's a book called The Millionaire Next Door. It explains how most millionaires in America, you would never know that they're millionaires because they don't show it off. And most of the people out there who think it's important to keep up with the Joneses, they're spending beyond their means, and it's just not a smart thing to do. They really should teach more about financial education in high school. Well, Karen, there's a reason that our system is designed this way. If more people knew how to manage their finances effectively, they wouldn't waste money on things they don't need, and corporate profits would plummet. Stop telling me the depressing truths of reality and read the next story. Karen wants her breakfast. I work at a hotel. I'm on the graveyard shift, and we have a continental breakfast from 6 to 9, and my shift ends at 7, so I'm in charge of setting up for breakfast. It's not a big deal. It's a small hotel and a small breakfast, but we do have waffles and a couple of waffle makers. Basically, guests come in, they get their batter out of the dispenser and make their waffles so they're fresh and hot. We have 2 seasons where I live, winter and construction season, and we get work crews that stay at the hotel on the boss's dime and then go out for whatever job they're working on, and we very frequently get this one crew of guys. They're great guys, they're polite, and they don't leave the breakfast room a mess, but their shift starts super early in the morning. We also get hunters who are in and out before 6, so I usually have everything set up by 5:30 for them. I say usually because I'm only human. Sometimes I'm running late, it happens, but I'm never more than 5 minutes after 6. The workers and the hunters are super chill about it. They get it and don't complain about waiting a couple of extra minutes. I also feel the need to add that the foreman is among them, so he's eating when they are. So one day I'm running a little late. I got caught up with what I was doing and kind of lost track of time, so I was rushing to get everything set up while the guys are patiently waiting in the lobby. In enters Karen, who sees the time, sees that breakfast isn't ready, and decides to yell at me for it, saying that the sign says breakfast is from 6 to 9 and should be started exactly at 6. I tried to keep working while talking to her so I could get the breakfast ready, but she decides that was rude. So I had to stop what I was doing and stand there with her yelling at me until she ran out of breath and I could finish setting up. Karen complains to the manager. I get a verbal warning that I have to have breakfast open by 6 as I was about 15 minutes behind because Karen was yelling at me when I would have been less than 4 minutes if she had let me finish. Well, Karen was a stayover, and she was in the next day before 6. The manager refunded part of her stay under guest satisfaction, and I think she was hoping to find me doing something wrong so she could get another refund. but I was on my game and had everything set up by 5:30 like usual. She came in before the workers and saw me sitting at the front desk and sneered about me being lazy when I should be setting up for breakfast. I told her that breakfast was already ready as the construction workers are entering, but I stand and walk over to block the doorway to the breakfast room and told her that I couldn't let them in because the manager said I had to start the breakfast at exactly 6, so I couldn't let them back until then. And as I'm saying this, I'm looking directly at Karen. Slowly, heads turn and Karen goes red and mutters something about coming back later and leaves, so I let the guys back in. They said it was funny, and like I said, the workers have had to wait a little after 6 before with no problem, and the foreman was there. To be clear, if I thought this stunt was going to cost them their breakfast, I never would have done it, but I knew that wasn't going to be a problem. I didn't see Karen again, so either she didn't come back or she returned after I left. But either way, I didn't hear another word from the manager about it. You want your breakfast at 6, you're going to get your breakfast at 6. My Karen stepmom demands I give up my room for her daughter. So I, 16 female, live with my dad since he and my mom split up, and just recently he got married to Kelly. Kelly has a daughter who's 13 and a son who's 9, and they just moved in with us. My dad and I's house has 4 rooms. The master bedroom has a master bathroom inside of it, and my room is just a little bit smaller, but it also has a bathroom in the room too. Then there are the other 2 rooms that don't have a bathroom but have walk-in closets, unlike mine. All of the rooms have beds and dressers, you know, all the stuff that makes a room, without the personal decorations that you choose. When they came to move in, her daughter ran straight past one of the vacant rooms and into mine. My walls are purple, and I have Marvel and DC posters hanging up on the wall. I also have a mirror attached to my dresser with lights around it. So once I showed her son to the room he would be sleeping in, I went into my room and saw her bringing her stuff into my room. And so I told her that this isn't her room and that she has to have one of the rooms with no decorations. She immediately starts flipping out. She started yelling, saying she was gonna tell her mom and my dad that I'm being mean to her and trying to bully her because she was younger. Her mom and my dad came into the room due to all the yelling and asked what was going on. And so I told them that she thinks my room is hers and she won't leave. But she said that this has to be her room because it's her favorite color, purple, and it has a bathroom, so it has to be hers. My dad explained to her that she can get her room painted whatever color she wants, and we can get her the posters and pictures she wants also. But she said she doesn't want a room that doesn't have a bathroom, so this one should be hers. Her mom ended up agreeing with her, saying that I've had this room for a very long time and I can just restart in the other room and I should give it to her since she's younger. So I told her that I won't give up my room because this has all of my stuff in it and I'm comfortable in my room, so her daughter will have to go to the other only available room. She's saying that I'm being rude and mean to my new little sister and I should be reasonable and give her my room and be the bigger person and act my age and not like a little kid. So, am I the jerk? Edit. I see a lot of people are asking how my dad feels and what's his opinion on this, and he said that I can choose to do whatever because it's my room and I'm old enough to talk for myself. Not the jerk. She's 13, not 3. It's your room. It was your room before your dad married, and it should be your room until you move out. Don't budge on this. Make sure your dad keeps supporting you. Good luck. If no ages were mentioned, I could have very well thought that she was 3. If she's this entitled from the very beginning, I can't imagine how terrible it would be to live with her long term. I really feel bad for OP. 1000% not the jerk. Now that you mention living with her long term, OP needs to get a lock and keep the door locked whenever she's not in there, or stepbrat may end up in there stealing her stuff or breaking her things. Not the jerk. You shouldn't have to start over in a new room. Plus, in my experience, the eldest kids get to pick their rooms and then down to the youngest. This is because when the old kids move out, the younger ones can then have their rooms. Your stepmom is being stupid and setting a precedent that won't end well. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her stepmom? Please let us know. I'm really disappointed Dad isn't stepping in here and going off on them. You don't just come into someone's house and demand to take their room. My boyfriend dumps me for sending him a photo of me at the hospital. I, 20 female, was recently admitted into a hospital for a night due to a serious but not life-threatening illness. I was completely out of it for several days with horrible pain before my roommate convinced me to get medical help. She took off work to stay with me in the hospital, and I cannot express how much her support has helped as my own family lives too far away. Now, I've been dating Sam, who's 19, for about 9 months. He knew I was sick, and so I texted him when I was first going into the hospital to update him. Since he was working, he didn't read the message until much later. I sent him around 6 text messages updating him with what the nurses were saying and including a photo of me on IV giving a thumbs up. It was my first time ever in the hospital, and I just wanted to keep the bad situation as lighthearted as possible. He responded a few hours later with a thumbs up, and that was all. I asked if everything was all right, and he said, "Yeah, just you being in the hospital is giving me a lot of anxiety. I'd rather not see you looking like that." I told him that was okay and didn't message him for the rest of the night, not thinking much of it. The next afternoon, his mom called me asking if I was okay. She had the impression that I sent him the hospital photo after he told me not to share any information and was disrespecting his request. She reminded me that his grandfather only passed a year earlier, where Sam had to spend a lot of time in and out of the hospital, so the updates were making him grieve all over again. I apologized to her and sent him a text saying that I didn't mean to hurt his feelings. He left me on read. My roommate thinks that I didn't do anything wrong at all, and he's being too sensitive and immature for involving his mom. Personally, I think this is a bit unfair, as he was really close with his grandfather and struggles with anxiety. I really feel guilty now, as I know how mental health can be, and I never want him to suffer. Am I the jerk? Update. This morning I woke up to a text from Sam asking for a break. He told me he needed to focus on himself and that there's too much drama in this relationship. I agree. I've been with Sam through all of his anxiety attacks, holding him, crying in my arms more times than I can count. He has never done the same for me. I've made excuses over and over again for this behavior. I've begged him to go to therapy and he's always refused. This hospital stay and your comments have been eye-opening. Oh, and for his mom? She reminded me to let go of my feeling and do what's best for me. I'm starting up therapy because I'll be needing the support when you're gone. I actually laughed out loud at that one. She hasn't reached out to me yet, and I hope she never does. My roommate and I are figuring out how to end things once and for all. So yeah, that's it for now. Feeling a lot of emotions, but I know it's for the best. Also, thank you so much to the lovely Redditors who have given me advice and wished me well. I'm doing much better, and I appreciate it a ton. It's like lobsters. You've just measured him, he's not grown enough. Put him back in the sea. I had one boyfriend, he was 26 at the time, who visited me once when I was in the hospital for a week. We'd been together for 2 years and were living together. We didn't last. My next boyfriend was 21 when I was hospitalized. I was in between their ages, on our first anniversary of meeting. He was in the hospital with me holding the cardboard chuck-up trays and visited every day. Both had difficult shift patterns. I'm still with number 2 now, 19 years later. You're not the jerk unless you break fishing law and don't return the baby lobster to the sea. Not the jerk. His mom called you to say how disrespectful you are while you're recovering in the hospital? That's a new one. You would have had to be told to not share pictures or any more messages or pics before not considering his feelings. Life is tough and you were reaching out for support. Not the jerk. And please leave your boyfriend and his mother. He's more concerned about his feelings than about how you're doing. He didn't even ask how you were or hope you felt better or anything. That's wrong. I want to write something else, very rude here. You're in a hospital bed for the first time ever, in pain, and you shouldn't be the one worrying about him suffering. Rethink your priorities and what you want in a boyfriend. Not the jerk. This guy isn't ready to be an adult, let alone in a relationship. You were in the hospital, and rather than expressing concern, he talked about his own anxiety. And then he sent his mommy after you. Run. Red flags. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her boyfriend and his mom? Please let us know. He sounds like even more of a mummy's boy than you, Reddit boy. Am I the jerk for mentioning my best friend's former crush on me at his wedding? Okay, I'm currently in a predicament, and frankly, I could really use some opinions. For backstory, I, female 27, met one of my best friends, Christian, male 26, back in 2010 during our freshman year of high school. We became friends and remained close over the years since, making a lot of great memories and sharing mutual close friends. From 2013 to 2016, Christian had pretty serious unrequited feelings for me. However, he eventually got over me, and I had never even let his feelings harm our friendship. If anything, our friendship honestly got closer after he got over me. In early 2018, Christian met Victoria, female 29, at a bar, and they hit it off. They started dating after 2 weeks, got engaged in late 2021, and the wedding happened yesterday night. It was honestly a great time as I watched with my parents and mutual friends as the kid I've known for 12 years was getting married to the love of his life. Plus, Victoria and I honestly had a pretty decent relationship, and according to Christian, she didn't really seem to care about his past feelings as time went on. Anyway, as the night kept going with a lot of music and dancing, I got up to eventually give a speech for Christian. I talked about how we first met, how much our lives changed since then, and just how great of a person Christian was. The attendees were clearly touched, and Christian and Victoria both looked happy. As I talked more about our history, I jokingly mentioned how Christian had the hots for me, but that didn't matter because he found his soulmate and that our friendship was stronger than some unrequited feelings. Most of the crowd laughed, and I could even see Christian smiling for a second before seeing Victoria's confused face. After the speech was over, I went over to the bar with a few friends. Christian came up and hugged me, thanking me for the speech. However, at our hotel, one of my other best friends, Devin, female 27, told me she had heard gossip from the bridesmaids that Victoria was really upset with me for bringing up Christian's previous feelings for me at the wedding. Apparently, Victoria genuinely had no issue with Christian's feelings, but felt it was inappropriate to mention them at a wedding. I sincerely intended no harm with my actions. Maybe I didn't read the room. Everyone I've told is honestly split on whether I'm the bad guy or not, so it's definitely been polarizing. Christian hasn't mentioned any of this to me, and I'm not sure I should ask him. Am I the jerk? Edit. To those of you asking about whether the speech was planned or impromptu, I had asked Christian's parents beforehand if I could give a speech, and they were more than happy with it. People have to stop with the assumptions that this has anything to do with me having feelings, though. Yeah, saying that in my speech was probably an idiot move, but my sincere intention was to tell everyone about our 12 years of friendship and some of its history, and like I said, people were touched up until my fateful joke. Oh, you pulled the "he was into me first" card. He was in love with me, but I turned him down, and so now he's into you. Yeah, you're the jerk. How tasteless. I agree. This screams, I should always be the center of attention, intended or not. Also, your crush was such an ego boost that I still revel in it 6 years after it ended. This is what it was all about. OP can deny it all she wants, but this was not about celebrating years of friendship with her friend, but about stroking her own ego one last time. You'll be forever known as the groom's female friend who said, "He was into me first" during a speech at the wedding. There's a time and a place for jokes like that, but a speech at a wedding reception isn't one of them. You're the jerk. Exactly. OP for sure owes the couple an apology, but frankly, the person she humiliated here is herself. All the guests at this wedding will be dining off this story for years to come. The time I went to a wedding and a drunk friend of the groom tried to imply he was her sloppy seconds to the bride is a pretty killer anecdote, likely to elicit many horrified reactions and follow-up questions from its audience. You're the jerk. You don't bring that stuff up at a wedding, joking or not. This speech was supposed to be about Christian and Victoria, not about Christian's past feelings for you. Imagine how uncomfortable you made Victoria feel. I also bet the crowd laughed out of more discomfort for the situation. You need to apologize to the bride and groom. I understand you didn't mean that comment maliciously at all. It was just wildly inappropriate considering the time and place. Not the jerk. This is what the dude gets for sticking around as that guy friend for so long. I know most of you will think I'm crazy for saying this, but I need to speak the truth right quick. Me being a young woman who always keeps it 100. All guy friends are only sticking around because they want to hook up with you. It took years for this to finally click in my head, but once it made sense, everything just clicked. Don't believe me? Text one of your guy friends right now and ask if they want to hook up with you tonight. They will jump at the opportunity because that's the only reason they're into you. Guy friends who we don't hook up with are just emotional sponges and used as an ego boost for our self-esteem. I'm speaking facts right now that y'all will hate me for, but I've talked to many of my homegirls about this, and in private, they will admit that this is 100% true. But of course, in public, they want to act like dude friends are legit interested in them for who they are. It's crazy how we all gotta act fake in real life and deny the truth. Downvote me all you want. I'm in reality keeping it 100, while you over here denying straight facts. Well, what do you think? Is OP the jerk for what she said in her speech or not? Please let us know.
This never would have happened if OP would have just kept it 100. Skirt, skirt.
Well, I guess in a way she was kind of keeping it 100. It's not like she was lying, right?
You know what I mean, Reddit boy.
My Karen guidance counselor told me that I wasn't college material. Years later, I pretended not to know her. I know it doesn't sound much like revenge, but it was oh so sweet. Let me tell you. Back in high school, I struggled hard. I had a stepdad who adopted me and then ignored me my whole life, and a mom who was wrapped up in making his life perfect. Yeah, he was what some might call a textbook narcissist, with my mom as his flying monkey. It's from Wizard of Oz. Anyway, school was a difficult time for me, and I had a lot of anxiety and a hard time focusing. I attended all of my classes, and I was always doing very well on my assignments, but I had trouble completing them. My guidance counselor was the same all throughout high school, and every year would start with a meeting with her, and I would explain I needed more help because I was struggling to focus. She brushed me off every time, stating that I obviously wasn't trying hard enough because I had no excuse, since my stepdad, my adopted dad, was, wait for it, a social worker for the school board and personal friend of hers. Yeah, it was awful. At the end of high school, we had our obligatory meeting about what colleges and universities or trade schools to apply for. I told her I was interested in psychology and I would like to be a counselor or to teach psychology. The woman scoffed, literally scoffed at me. She said, and I quote, "Please do not apply to university. It would be a huge disappointment for you. You are not university material, and you may be better with a community college or even certificate in administration." Now let me say, there's nothing wrong with going to community college or getting a certificate in something. Nothing at all. But this woman's words would haunt me my whole life. I wanted to pursue something I was very interested in, and she essentially told me I wasn't smart enough or capable enough to do it. Fast forward to my late 20s. I worked at a variety of small jobs here and there and became very depressed. I finally decided one day, forget this, I'm applying for university. Well, I got in and I graduated with honors. So I went to teacher's college for another bachelor degree. Again, graduated with honors, and about 5 years ago, I finally finished my master's in behavioral psychology. 2 years ago, stepdad passed, and who's at the visitation? My old guidance counselor. She came right over and started talking to me immediately like she knew me, like we were old friends. I cut her off and said, "I'm so sorry, you must be confusing me with someone else." She looked shocked and said, "I was your guidance counselor for 4 years." And I just shook my head and gave the best blank stare that I could, shrugged and said, "Sorry, I honestly don't remember you." When I left, she looked a bit confused and disappointed. I think she had hoped for me to have all these good memories of her, how helpful she was to me as a teen. But nope, I wanted her to feel that she was nothing to me, had zero effect. Even though she did affect me, I wasn't going to let her know that. I felt pretty good about that. Edit. To anyone wondering, I now teach psychology to future counselors, so I'm doing what I originally wanted, and that made this so much sweeter. Edit. My mom had run into her a few times at the grocery store before this and has bragged about my accomplishments, so I didn't have to tell her about them. She knew I was successful. Since she already knew, I pretended she was nobody to me, to ensure she understood she contributed nothing. Also, to those say that she helped me in the end, and that she was right, no, I asked her to help me for 4 years and I got nothing. She laughed at my dreams and my goals. She did not do her job, she failed as a guidance counselor, and frankly, also as a decent human being. It makes me sad to see how many people were also treated the way that I was. I'd love to expand on my story more, but I wouldn't know how to do that. I'm just glad this post was able to inspire some of you to achieve your dreams, in spite of the grown-ups who said you couldn't. To the haters who still want to argue, but she helped you out. No, I motivated and helped myself. How dare you try to diminish my hard work by saying this woman who failed me was helping? Shame on you for saying that. Bullies aren't motivational tools, they're just tools. Am I the jerk for no longer babysitting for my sister? Basically, I, 39 female, was helping my sister Claire, who's 38, with her kids, who are 9 and 5, because she's going through a nasty split with their dad. They go to the same school as my kid, who's 6, and I work flexible hours and from home, so it was easy to pick the kids up and watch them for a few hours. I was also paid for my time, as was my husband who also helped, but I quit after Claire accused my kid of stealing. She said with no evidence or anything that since her daughter's favorite doll was missing, it was obvious my daughter had stolen it since it was last seen at my house. I asked my daughter, and she said no, and I believed her. She said she saw my niece leave with it, and I believed her. I even searched my whole house, and I couldn't find it. I told my sister all of this, and she said that my daughter is a liar and a thief, and that I'm enabling her, and she expects me to pay for a new doll. I was so angry and incensed that she was being so nasty and horrible that I just said to her, "My daughter is no liar or a thief, and you know what? I'm done. Find someone else to babysit, because it certainly won't be me," and I hung up. I got 5 missed calls from Claire before I blocked her. She sent panicked messages and tried calling my husband, but he blocked her too. We've learned from my parents that Claire is panicking because she really needs help with the kids, and I'm the only one with sort of flexible routine to do so. She also said that she has found her daughter's doll and said that it's okay now, but not once has she offered any sort of apology for what she said about my kid. My parents think that I'm doing her over by not helping her, and that she made an honest mistake and it just stressed her out, and everything is due to her marriage split. They've also said that I should perhaps take the higher ground and move on from this, and don't seem to understand that my kid was accused of something she didn't do. I see it as, I don't care if she's crappy to me, but definitely if it's about my kid and she hasn't once said sorry for accusing my 6-year-old of being a thief, she disrespected my kid, and no amount of bad situation or stress is preventing her from saying sorry and smoothing things over. I should also add, my niece never said my daughter stole her doll. She just said something along the lines of, "Mummy, I can't find my doll," and never said any other context to that. So my sister just assumed it meant my daughter stole it, rather than believing it could have just been somewhere in her house. I quit babysitting because she was rude, nasty, and bitter, and is expecting things to go back to normal just because she found the doll. She isn't admitting she messed up, and I would be happy to babysit again, but only if she sincerely apologized. But she isn't, so here we are. Not the jerk. Your sister has yet to apologize for calling your daughter a liar and a thief without evidence, not even after she found the doll, therefore evidence of your daughter's innocence. You should take the higher ground and move on? Why do people always put pressure to be the bigger man or bigger woman on the wronged party? Not the jerk. She didn't ask if maybe your daughter took the doll by mistake. She went straight to, "She's a thief and a liar," and no apology? Man, if she had apologized and got your daughter a little gift, it may have been salvageable. As it is, don't babysit anymore. Stress and all that is no excuse for this type of behavior towards your family. Am I the jerk for assuming our kids will take my last name? Plus updates. I'm 29, female. My husband is 29, male, and I'm pregnant. We're happy about it, but it's all happened so fast, so we didn't discuss details before. Today, while we were fantasizing about our future, I kind of wistfully said the full name of our baby. Gender-neutral first name we chose, and my last name. He was upset and asked why I assumed they would take my name. I said it was because I thought he didn't care about his last name, whereas my last name is very important to me. Context: I never changed my last name when we got married because in my culture this is uncommon, and my name also has very heavy cultural and historic significance. I'm extremely proud of it, and I'm also very close with my extended family. My husband has no relationship with his family, as his parents abandoned him to his uncle who mistreated him for years until he moved in with me. When we were getting married, he wanted to change his last name to mine because he feels like my family is his real family, which I was okay with, but eventually we decided he doesn't need to go through the hassle since he's part of our family regardless. He's never expressed any type of interest in his heritage, which is Irish, and even when I suggested we go visit Ireland, he wasn't interested. But now he said that people will think the kid is not his, and that it's disrespectful to have kids not take the father's last name. I was confused because he's never expressed any such sentiment before. I told him my last name is non-negotiable, so we can hyphenate it. He was resistant since both our last names are clunky and long, but eventually he said only if his name comes first. I got really annoyed at his implication that there's something wrong with taking the mom's last name, so maybe I was a little petty, and I said, "Suits me. That way people will think your name is just a middle name and mine is their last name." He told me I was being a jerk and left the house. It's been a couple of hours and he's responding to my texts with one-word responses. Edit: I'm seeing some misunderstanding about why he never changed his last name to mine. I thought it was a good idea, and so he was doing research on the process, but ended up complaining to me that the process seemed like a big hassle. After which I told him that my family loves him regardless of what his last name is, so he decided to not go through with it. Right now, we decided to discuss this whole thing in the morning after we get some sleep, and I'll try to offer some of the suggestions people made in the replies. Thank you for the responses, It really helped put some things into perspective for me. Update. After my husband came home, we decided to talk in the morning as he was tired and still a little upset. Next morning, he was really trying to push the topic aside and said he didn't care what name we chose anymore. He just didn't want to keep talking about it. I didn't think that was a good idea, but I was worried he'd get angry if I pushed it, so I asked him if we could just cuddle for a while. I brought it up again by apologizing for my comment that I made about the hyphenated name. He said he didn't want to hyphenate our names anyway. We talked for a while about a lot, like my family, culture, and his family, etc. But basically, he felt like he was the odd one out. I reminded him again how much my family, especially my parents and brother, love him and treat him like a son and a brother. They really do treat him like the baby of the family because that's how they always treated me as the youngest. My extended family loves him as well. He said he felt like he was still stuck with his crappy family even though he hasn't talked to any of them in years, and if our baby has his name, it would be like he was connected with the baby through that name and not his family. I was dreading asking him this, but based on comments on my other post, I decided to ask anyway. I asked him if he thinks he would like taking my last name, so he didn't have to share his last name with them anymore. He said that he was too embarrassed to suggest this again to my family because he felt like it would look badly that he keeps changing his mind on the topic, like he didn't respect this decision or my family's name. I convinced him that they wouldn't feel that way and that I would help him with every step of the name-changing process if he wants it. We ran it by my parents to prove to him that they were okay with it, and they were super supportive. He seems really happy about the decision and even excited while we were gathering all the info to make sure it's a smooth transition. I'm also planning to have some more detailed discussions with him about other things we never really discussed specifics of, so we don't catch each other by surprise again. Thank you again, everyone, for the perspectives and the suggestions. Am I the jerk for buying first-class tickets and leaving my in-laws to rot and coach? Okay, so here's the story. I'm a big guy. In fact, I was an NCAA Division II tight end. For non-Americans, think of the size of rugby players. For non-sports people, I'm a big dude. Not to mention my poor knees are shot and I have a bad lower back. Then factor in that I travel by plane often for work. My job reimburses for flights, but they only pay for a basic seat. Any upgrades come out of pocket. Thankfully, I make a decent enough living that most of the time I spring for an upgrade to economy comfort or even business class. If I have enough points or the flight is cheap enough, I spring for first class, but it's only if it's a longer haul flight. If it's a regional flight, I just suck it up, save the cash, and sit in economy. Okay, so here's the story. My in-laws invited me and my girlfriend, Diana, on a trip. We paid our own way, FYI. The trip would be 7 hours, so I told my girlfriend and in-laws that I paid for an upgrade to business class. They were cool with it, but in reality, I had something else cooking. Diana has never flown first class, and as a special surprise for her, I upgraded our seats to first class and would tell her at the airport. So for all the reasons I listed above, and for Diana, I got us upgraded to first. I was so excited to see her reaction, I could barely hold it in. So we get to the airport, and when the first class passengers are called, I looked at my girlfriend and told her, "Let's go." She said they didn't call our cabin yet, and I told her to look closer at her boarding pass. She looks and she's stunned. Father-in-law just laughs and shakes his head. Mother-in-law is stunned but doesn't look happy. Long story short, we had a ball in first class. She loved it and thanked me again and again. She only said to tell her in advance next time so that she can dress more bougie. We get off the plane and mother-in-law is angry at me. She said,
How could you leave father-in-law and I to rot in coach while you live it up in first?
To be fair, father-in-law didn't really care. He said he slept the whole way. He then told mother-in-law that he'd have left us too if he'd had the money. Mother-in-law said we should all go first class or not at all, that it isn't really fair or a good look to have two parties be in different classes like that. I said we were originally in business. She said there's a world of difference between business and first class. She said I could have at least sprung for economy comfort or business class for everyone, rather than being selfish. I talked with Diana afterward, and she said that while she enjoyed the surprise, she said that maybe I should have saved it for a private trip for the two of us, rather than with her parents. I still don't think it's a big deal, but I've been wrong in the past. So, am I the jerk? P.S. Mother-in-law is usually a nice person. I just think that this set her off. Not the jerk. You are all paying your own way. You don't have to travel as a herd. Mother-in-law is just jealous. She could have paid to be in first class, but she thinks that she's entitled to have you pay for it. Nope, nope, nope. Not gonna happen. Not the jerk. Your mother-in-law sounds bitter and entitled. Also, it's weird that she claims it isn't a good look to have separate classes. What? If everyone was already paying their own way, I'm really not sure of the problem. I'm tall for a girl, 5'9", and I don't want to sit in economy. My legs are insanely long, and I'm just not doing it. I don't blame you for sitting elsewhere. You're the jerk. That's like going on a family vacation, but you stay in a 5-star hotel while your parents stay in a Motel 6, or ordering steak for yourself while getting cup noodles for the in-laws. Your girlfriend is right that this would have been more appropriate to do if it was just a trip for the two of you, instead of with the in-laws. Now your girlfriend can't even gush about the fun experience without reminding her parents that they were purposely left out. You're the jerk. I'm gonna go against the grain. This was a group trip, and then you secretly organized something to separate the group. That's unkind and disrespectful to the others in the group. Am I the jerk for calling my boyfriend a lying jerk for not buying me the perfume I wanted for my birthday? I, 21 female, am really into beauty, makeup, skincare, perfume, etc., and I collect perfumes. There's one perfume I've been wanting for quite some time now, but it's been way out of my budget. I'm a college student working a part-time job at the movie theater, which pays about $13 an hour, and I have other priorities to pay for, so it's taken a while for me to save up. I'd finally saved up the amount I needed, and I was planning on buying myself the perfume as a birthday gift. My birthday was 2 days ago. I told my boyfriend, who's 20, and he told me to go spend my money on something else and he'd buy me the perfume instead. I told him he didn't have to, considering it's expensive, but he insisted. A few days before my birthday, I asked him if he was sure about buying it and told him again that I had no problem buying it myself. He told me not to worry about it and said he had already bought and wrapped it. I thanked him and figured since he had already bought it that I could spend my money on something else. I took my best friend and my younger sister out to a nice restaurant and to the movies after. I wasted more than half the money I'd saved up, but obviously didn't think anything of it. So on my birthday, my boyfriend gave me my gift and it was a body spray and a bath bomb. I asked him what happened to the perfume, and he told me it was a lot more expensive than he'd expected and was way out of his budget. I got mad at him and asked him why he lied to me and told me to waste my money on something else when he could have easily told me he couldn't afford it and I'd have bought it myself. He called me a spoiled brat and said I was expecting too much from him. I called him a lying jerk and left after that. I got a few texts from him and his friends calling me names and saying I'm using him for money. I also got a text from his mom, who I had a great relationship with, calling me childish for throwing temper tantrums when I don't get my way. I honestly don't see how I'm in the wrong here, but I'm not the type of person to not say sorry if I am. So, am I the jerk? Not the jerk. He lied to you and promised something, and then he didn't follow through with it. You gave him multiple chances to change his mind. He promised you it was already wrapped and got your hopes up, caused you to spend the money you had intentionally saved up for this item, and then acted like it was your fault you were disappointed and upset. Also, the way he responded to all of this, leave him. Not the jerk. He said he would get you what you wanted and then substituted something else, and you're the spoiled brat? Dump him, save the money again, and buy yourself some for Christmas. Happy belated birthday, hugs, and good luck. You're the jerk. See, this is why I traveled abroad and married a woman from a third world country. The sheer entitlement to flip out over not getting the perfume you wanted your boyfriend to buy you, my wife wouldn't act like this in 1,000 years. Sometimes people have such privileged lives that they purposely seek out silly things to be upset over. And all these idiots telling you to leave him. Honestly, I hope you do. He deserves someone that won't flip out on him over not getting the perfume she wanted. And you wonder why he called you a spoiled brat. Passports, young men. The sooner you get them, the sooner you'll find a good woman to marry. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that he can't move in with me? I, 30 female, have been dating my boyfriend, 32 male, for about 5 months now. I own my home, and I purchased it this February, and it's my second home. I made a good amount on my first home and put most of that money towards this house. I have a good career making about $80,000, and my mortgage is $1,500. My boyfriend rents a room from his friend who owns a townhouse. His friend travels a lot for work and is hardly ever home, maybe 1 week out of the month or so. My boyfriend pays $800 a month, which includes utilities. It's a nice place, and my boyfriend makes good money as well, probably around $60,000 to $70,000. So recently, his friend was thinking about selling his townhouse and just moving in with his girlfriend. He told my boyfriend this, who then came over one night and sort of sprung all of it on me and told me that he should move in with me. I was really shocked, as we've only been dating for 5 months, and I really don't think that's long enough time for me to think about letting him move in. I tried talking about it with him and told him that I needed some time to think it over. He was visibly annoyed, but let it go. So yesterday, I got a text from him stating that his friend plans to list his townhouse in October and my boyfriend needs to be out by the end of October. My boyfriend doesn't have a lease or anything, but he texted me and said that he needs to move in with me short term as that's not enough time to find an apartment. I texted him back and said we can talk that night. When he came over last night, he was ranting and begging me to let him move in, about how he didn't make enough money to get an apartment and that it would just be less stressful for him to move in with me. That if he could help pay half, then it would be good for me, etc. I shut down that idea and told him we've not been together long enough for me to want to take that step. He got upset and called me heartless, and then he left. He texted me today and apologized, but still asked that I think about it a few more days. I told my friend and coworker today about everything, and he said I'm a jerk for not letting him move in. I was really shocked, but my coworker kept going, saying that in this economy, people can't afford to live by themselves, and that 5 months is long enough to move in together. I didn't say anything, but just remained quiet. So, am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that he can't move in with me? Not the jerk. 5 months is not long enough. If things go south, how do you get him out? Will he have a rental agreement? Then you have to follow tenant law. If not, and he receives mail at your house, then it's a whole different issue. His pushy nature and not respecting your clear boundary is concerning too. He can find a room for rent on Craigslist. He's just looking for an easy way out. Hold your ground. Not the jerk. Don't listen to your coworker and don't take relationship advice from them again. You're not obligated to take in your boyfriend, and his ranting, annoyed response speaks volumes about his character, like he can't take no for an answer. Also, if you let him in for the short term, he's not gonna leave. Am I the jerk for breaking it off with a guy who looked up where I live? I, 25 female, met a guy, 28 male, on a dating site about 4 months ago. We instantly hit it off and we had a ton in common. We talked every day until this happened. We both just got out of long-term relationships that had become super toxic, so it's kind of like we had been healing together. Our personalities mesh extremely well. We've always agreed on all of the big things like religion, politics, etc. We spend a considerable amount of time messaging back and forth every day. There's been a few small things we have disagreed on, but we always find compromises by respecting each other's opinions and working things out together. It's also relevant that he lives in a different country than I do. He seemed like a dream come true until this certain event happened. As soon as we started talking, he told me about his house and sent me several pics. I joked about what if I was a psycho and found out where he lived. Then he just flat out sent me his full address and told me he trusted me and knew he had nothing to worry about. I was kind of shocked he did that, but I did like the fact that he already trusted me this way. Now me, I'm not that trusting with people early on. It takes me much longer to trust someone with my personal info. I did tell him the city I lived in, which is one of the largest cities in my country, and about a few different places I like to go to. He started learning about my city and we talked about it sometimes. About 2 months into talking, he offered to buy me a birthday present and said he would have it sent to me if I was comfortable giving him my address. I appreciated the thought, but I just wasn't comfortable sharing my address at that time. He understood and just sent me a virtual gift card instead, which I really appreciated. Well, recently, he's been looking more into the cities here in my country. We've been discussing the idea of him moving here in the future instead of me moving there, just tossing ideas around at this point, and him getting a place near my area. He was sending me screenshots of different parts of the city from Google Maps, and one picture was in my neighborhood near a restaurant I like to go to. I told him, "That's actually in my neighborhood." Then he joked, saying, "I thought you were afraid to tell me what part of the city you're in." I told him it's okay. My city is so big, there's no way you can find out where I live. This was all done in a playful manner, not really serious. He then said, "Oh, you don't think I can figure it out? I'm really good at solving puzzles, and once I start working on one, I can't stop until I solve it." So just playing along with his game, I told him a few common stores that were in my area. I was sure he still wouldn't be able to figure it out. Well, about an hour later, he tells me, "I solved the puzzle, by the way, but you don't have anything to worry about. I would never send you anything without talking to you about it first, or do anything crazy." I thought he was just kidding again, so I told him, "There's no way you figured it out. You're just bluffing." He then says, "Well, do you ever walk down the street to store right next to me, or have your car fixed at the car place across the street from me?" That's when it hit me that he really had figured it out. I suddenly felt extremely worried. I realized that I shouldn't have given him those clues, but I really didn't think he'd actually be able to figure it out. I told him how worried I now was and he apologized. He said if he had known how much it would have upset me, then he wouldn't have done it. He told me that he used the clues I gave him, along with a video I sent him of the view outside my building, and he was able to explore Street View on Google Maps to match it up with the buildings that are visible in the background. So that's how he did it. He was very apologetic, and I do believe he was genuine. But I just wasn't comfortable after that, and told him we need a break from talking. He said he understands that he crossed a boundary, and he was very sorry, but that doesn't change how creeped out I feel about him actually doing that. Am I the jerk if I tell him I don't want to continue any communication with him from now on because of this? Not the jerk. He went full creeper. You never go full creeper. Creep? Nah, OP is just an idiot. Gave him all the clues, plus video outside of her building, went along with it, then acts surprised. Can't even say he went out of his way when she literally provided clues and all. Yeah, as a woman, I would be creeped out too, so not the jerk. This is extremely frightening, but you're at fault too for giving him clues and leading him on. Honestly, it sounds like he's just bad at flirting and thought you were into the topic. Probably thought of it as a challenge to prove that he's smart and good at solving puzzles. It's your choice to prioritize your safety when talking with a stranger, so yes, not the jerk if you stop communicating with them. You're the jerk. You gave him clues and played Guess Where I Live, and then he guessed where you live and you freaked out. You had the chance to not play Guess Where You Live, but instead gave more clues on purpose. Then after your freakout, he acted appropriately and apologized for accidentally crossing a boundary he didn't know you had. Also, you've been talking for 4 months. Why are you so worried he knows where you live? This isn't a stranger at this point. Am I the jerk for threatening to report my car stolen? I, 18 female, will be leaving for military boot camp soon, and the discussion of what to do with my car has recently come up. Since I'll be gone for 13 weeks, I will not need my car during that time and have agreed for my sister, Alexandra, who's 16, to use it during that time. Recently, a problem arose when I decided that when I came back from boot camp, I would take my car so that I could have it wherever I was stationed. I thought that since the car is in my name and it was given to me as a gift, not by my parents but by my grandparents, this wouldn't be a problem, or so I thought. I brought this up to my parents and they looked surprised. Apparently, behind my back, they had planned to give Alexandra the car while I was at boot camp and not return it to me once I came back. This shocked me as they had not discussed this with me. I completely own the car and it's not theirs to give away. They also already told her that the car was hers before even talking to me about it. Alexandra has been using my car to get to and from school while I await my ship-out date. It has not been a problem as I told her she could use it, and I was under the assumption that I would also be able to use it when I needed to. Since Alexandra had been told she could have the car without my permission, she assumed that she no longer had to allow me to use it. One day I needed to go to my recruiter's office to sign some paperwork, and since Alexandra's school is 33 miles from my recruiter's office, I offered to drive her to school and head to my recruiter after. She did not like this and said I should drive our mother to work and then go to the recruiter. I tried explaining that this was not the ideal situation since our mother's job is 30 miles in the opposite direction, not including the 10 miles it takes to get to Alexandra's from our house. In the end, I had to have my recruiter pick me up and take me back to his office. This is where I might be the jerk. That night, I brought this incident up and it started a fight between me and my family. I was tired of this, and I said that when I return from boot camp, they will give me my car and everything I own, which is mostly my clothes, and I'm also currently fighting Alexandra over this. My parents got mad and said I'm a child and I own nothing, not even the car. As previously stated, it's in my name. My clothes are mostly secondhand from friends, so they didn't buy them. I then explained this to them and they stopped talking. Alexandra then said the car is hers and told me to shut up. I got mad at this and said that when I come back, my car will come with me, and if I see her driving it, I'll report it as stolen. Now everyone says that I'm the jerk for threatening the cops on a teenager. So, am I the jerk for threatening to report my car stolen? Not the jerk. If the car is in your name, it's yours. There's nothing that your parents or your sister can do about that. Be sure to take the original registration papers with you so that ownership and title cannot be transferred without your consent. My Karen wife demands a new car and respects her rich father more than me. My wife, 35 female, and I, 35 male, have been together for 10 years and married for 5. We grew up completely differently. She's the only child of a surgeon father. Her mother passed when she was 2, and it was her and her father for most of her life. He remarried when she was 17. He's wealthy, sent her to a private school, paid for her college, and when we met a decade ago, he was still paying her rent, even though she had a solid job. I come from a poor family, but we both have pretty good jobs and make around the same amount of money now. She's such a daddy's girl, and it's been affecting our relationship. Anytime she wants or needs something, she goes to her dad first, and sometimes it's about things I could have helped her with. I work in tech, and back when we started dating, she was starting grad school, and she asked her dad what laptop she should get. I told her I actually work in the field, which she already knew, and I could easily answer that for her and get her what she needs, and she just kind of shrugged. Okay, fine. These little things have happened throughout the last decade, but there have been bigger issues recently. Last year, she decided that she needs a new car. I disagreed. Her car is fine, and she works from home and barely even drives. She was adamant though. About a month later, she tells me she's getting a new car. I told her we need to make these decisions together, and we share finances, and this is a major purchase. She says, "Oh, my dad is buying it. He said we can just sell mine and get some extra money." I told her it's kind of ridiculous to ask her dad to buy her a brand new car when she has a perfectly good car, and we don't need it anyways. She got upset and said it's not that big of a deal, and her dad doesn't mind, and that the car wasn't that expensive anyways. She said I'm overreacting and that it's okay for her dad to do nice things for her. She got a brand new 2022 car completely paid for by her dad, and we sold her old one. Now we are buying a new house. We recently narrowed it down to 2 options. We were discussing it last week, and my wife says, "Oh, I don't think House A is good. My dad said he thinks we could do a lot better with our budget." Before she talked to her dad, she loved House A. So I got a bit frustrated and said it didn't matter what her dad thought because this is our family home and he won't be living there. She got angry. We started arguing. We both said mean things. I called her a spoiled brat and said she needed to grow up, and she got upset and slept in the guest room, and now it's been a few days and we've barely spoken. She said I was so mean to her. You're the jerk. You just sound super insecure about her father. Take a moment to reflect. You're on Reddit complaining that she asked her dad for advice on a laptop. You're jealous. That's all there is to it, and it's pathetic. Instead of worrying about her relationship with her father and calling her names, why aren't you using rich father-in-law to your advantage? Like you actually started a fight over her getting a new car neither of you had to pay for. Just insane. He's on Reddit complaining that she asked her dad for advice on a laptop 10 years ago, no less. Good grief. You're the jerk. It sounds like you want her to take your advice on everything and not her dad's. It might be that she grew up not wanting for anything and seemingly still doesn't, but you have been with her for a long time, so it's not as though you haven't been aware of it. If he's willing to fund stuff, then just enjoy it, as most people would be quite happy with someone buying them a new car. You're the jerk. You got mad that she asked her dad what kind of laptop to get. Just ridiculous. Just because you got married doesn't mean her dad isn't part of her life anymore. I agree, financial decisions should be made together. She wanted the car and you said no. There was no compromise on your part at all. No conversation, just a no, we don't need it. So I see why she went to her dad. Now you have a new safe car that you didn't have to pay for, plus extra cash from the sold car. Sounds like you might be jealous. Regarding the house, parents typically bring the reality to situations. Maybe she liked House A and was excited but couldn't see the reality, so her dad's job was to make her see maybe it's not worth the money. That maybe you could get a more move-in ready home, or one with a better yard or an extra bathroom. It doesn't mean she doesn't love it anymore, just that maybe there's something better for the budget you have. Not the jerk. If the roles had been reversed and this was a man who ran to mommy all the time, it wouldn't be a single "you're the jerk" here. Yes, being mean to her wasn't nice, but this has been boiling up for a while. You're married to her dad's opinion. If you want to keep this marriage, you need counseling. This is funny. If the roles were reversed, people would call the husband a mama's boy. Not the jerk, and I can't fathom all the "you're the jerks." She's married to you. Things should be discussed between you two. She doesn't get the answer she wants, so she runs to daddy to get it. Just start doing the same in respect of opinions about things. Oh, well, I spoke to my parents and they think this, so we're not going to do that anymore. Or, I spoke to my parents and they think I should spend my money on this, so that's what I'm going to do. Sometimes people need a mirror reflected on them. She clearly does not respect you, your opinion, or your marriage. I would suggest marriage counseling to work through both your issues. ETA, if you want to have kids with her, you need to get this sorted out now. Not the jerk. If you're a man, never marry a woman who will always place her father above you when it comes to respect. And the same goes for women. Don't marry a man who will always value his mother's opinions over yours. When you get married, it's time to start operating as a team. That team should depend on each other, not mommy and daddy. I know Reddit is infamous for recommending divorce, but in this case, I think it's warranted. She's never going to see you on an equal level as she sees her father. He's always going to be the man, and you're going to be the boy. All of these Redditors saying you're the jerk, they are either boys themselves or girls who see no problem in holding their father in higher regard than their spouse. An attorney's dream case, my parents versus the bank. In 1973, my parents had enough money to build a little ranch house in the country. The small bank in town approved the mortgage, and the bank signed a contract to give Bob the money to build the house. Bob, as it turns out, was overbooking himself all over town, leaving his clueless minions to do the actual work. The build took longer and longer, with more and more work having to be ripped out and redone. We're not talking about using the wrong color paint or nailing up some wonky trim here or there. The architect forgot to fully erase a line on the blueprints, and the framers built a wall through the bathtub. My mother was told, don't put anything heavy in the kitchen cabinets because they were attached to the drywall, not the studs, using a few roofing nails through the back of each cabinet. The garage door opening was framed into the living room instead of towards the driveway, and so on. When the bank's representative showed up for the final inspection, my parents met him in the front yard and refused to sign off on Bob's work. Then representative became angry as the bank had paid Bob a lot of money. He strode to the front door and pulled on the doorknob, whereupon the entire door, casing included, fell on him. It had simply been wedged, not nailed into place. The bank called Bob, who finally showed up to supervise the work himself. The only problem was that Bob wasn't any better at building a house than his minions were. My parents still refused to sign off on the house. My mother was a stay-at-home mom in a nasty rental with 2 tiny kids, while my dad was working 2 jobs while this was going on. Throughout the entire process, the bank and Bob treated them very poorly, bullying my mom and lying to my dad. What should have been an exciting time for my parents was ruined. My mom cried a lot, and my dad got pretty depressed. Finally, the bank threatened my parents with foreclosure, and Bob threatened to sue my parents for breach of contract because the bank refused to pay him any more money. So my exhausted parents went to an attorney and gave him the rundown. Plumbing, electrical, tiling issues, the whole sorry mess. My parents were scared. All they had was their small down payment savings, so if this became a lengthy court battle, the bank and Bob would win. The attorney, Tom, was kind, but my dad said he could tell that he and Mom were doomed from Tom's facial expressions as he sorted through the paperwork. Then, abruptly, Tom smiled. "Let's get everyone together for a meeting," he told my parents. "Tomorrow." So my parents, Tom, the bank's representative, and bank's attorney, Bob and Bob's attorney met at the bank. Tom didn't give anyone else time to begin. He said, "Well, my clients have decided they no longer want this house. Please remove it." Everyone else started laughing. "Remove it? Have you lost your mind?" Tom, in a sweeping theatrical gesture, placed a deed on the table. "My clients own the land the house is sitting on outright. They no longer want the house. Get the house off my client's land." Bob's attorney stared at the deed and then turned and stared at Bob. "You built a house on land you didn't own?" Bob nodded. The bank's attorney started yelling at the bank's representative. "You didn't finance the land the house is on?" The representative stammered. No," Tom said firmly. "As I said, gentlemen, you're trespassing on my client's land. I expect the house to be removed and the land returned to its original state at once." My dad said he'll remember the blank looks everyone had on their faces for the rest of his life. Sure, the bank could foreclose on a house that wouldn't exist by the end of the week, with no help to recoup the money. They didn't even own the land it was on. Bob was out the 50% he'd paid out of pocket, plus he was on the hook for tearing down the house and removing it. On top of that, the bank would also want him to repay the initial 50% they'd given him. Could they have gone after my parents? Sure. A foreclosure would have meant bad credit for my parents moving forward. They might lose their down payment, but to sign off on the house in its condition at that time would have meant thousands and thousands of dollars in cash to replace and repair everything from the roof to the basement before the house could even be lived in. The bank knew my parents didn't have that kind of money. They're the ones who approved the mortgage. Suddenly, my parents were good people. It was all such a misunderstanding, and the bank and Bob couldn't do enough for them. The house was brought in line with the original blueprints and specifications immediately, at no extra cost to my parents, but at considerable cost to Bob. My parents signed the mortgage, Bob got the rest of his money, and just about broke even on the build. The bank's representative was fired. And Tom, attorney extraordinaire, got a stinging tale of triumph to recall to fellow attorneys for the rest of his life. Before you question this tale, please remember that 1973 was 50 years ago. Banks did things differently back then. Smaller rural banks, in particular, were not run the same way the bigger city banks were. There were far fewer federal regulations, and in a smaller community, people didn't always follow them anyway. I'm pretty sure they don't always follow them now. Yes, they built a wall through the bathtub. No, I'm not making it up. I even left out how a plumber left his lunch bag on a partially built kitchen cabinet, but the cabinet maker didn't feel it was his job to move the bag, so he left it there and built the rest of the cabinet around it. I don't know where Bob found these people, but they were gems, every one of them. Am I the jerk for planning to move out of state for college, leaving my single mother sister alone? I, 18 female, have a twin, Mary. We don't have any more siblings. Mary got pregnant when she was 14. She couldn't find the father to tell him that she was pregnant, and he is still nowhere to be seen. We've lived with our parents in a 2-bedroom apartment for nearly a decade now. So when Mary gave birth, her baby had to stay in our room. My parents worked more so they could provide for the baby, so it was mostly Mary and I at home taking care of her baby. If I wasn't at school, my parents would demand that I go home and help my sister with her baby. I had no life, no privacy, and no love or attention since my sister had her baby. I know obviously the baby and mother take priority, but I felt so alone. At 14 to 15, it was very hard for me to come to terms with my parents not asking me how I'm doing anymore, not congratulating me on my achievements, coming to my games, taking care of me when I was sick, etc. I became resentful of Mary and my parents, but I did a pretty good job at never showing them that. I knew the feelings would pass, and it did by the time I was 16. I got a job at 16, so I had some time to myself outside of school and my niece. My parents then coerced me to contribute almost 80% of my wages to help Mary take care of her baby. I've always been a pushover, so I couldn't say no, especially because Mary and the baby did actually need the money. Most of the money my parents made was going to bills, rent, and car payments. Anyway, I told my parents I got into a very good college out of state on a near full scholarship and that I'm planning to go. They asked me how I can think it's okay to just leave them to take care of Mary's baby. I asked why I should stay in a shared bedroom with my sister and my niece for my college years. They said not everything is about what I want, and sometimes people make sacrifices for family as they are doing. Mary jumped into the conversation by saying she wouldn't go off to another state and leave me, a single mother, alone if the roles were reversed. I said she isn't alone, our parents are here. She said it's not the same because they're always gone for work. Am I the jerk? Not the jerk. What are you supposed to do? Put your life on hold forever? OP. I actually asked my mom when it would be acceptable for me to leave and live my own life, and she said when Mary isn't a single mother anymore. So I have to wait till she gets a serious boyfriend or a husband and moves in with him until my duties are done. I'm not willing to do that. Does she have trouble with impulse control? OP. She definitely does. If something crosses her mind, she has to do it immediately. Even if I try to talk her out of it, she'll still do it. Once when we were 16, a friend of our parents came over for dinner. He held my niece and kept saying how cute she was. My sister told me that she thought he was really handsome and she would shoot her shot. She said him holding her baby made her think that he would be a good dad. I was like, what? I told her to stop messing around. He had a wedding ring on and looked even older than our dad. She got his number from my dad's phone and started texting him. I went through their texts and she was being extremely inappropriate. He blocked her number soon after realizing what she was trying to do. Update. I'm doing all right. I'm staying with an aunt in another state till I can leave for college. I made an excuse of wanting to work with her for the summer. She gave me a job at her flower shop and I'm loving it actually. I left because I was so uncomfortable at home. They were giving me the silent treatment and being really cold towards me. They can feel however they want, but I have no intention of staying in such an environment this summer. My aunt is amazing and I'm having a great time with her. Honestly, no clue if they knew who the father is or not. They had many discussions when she was pregnant and they asked me to leave the room and give them privacy to talk. I don't believe they know who he is, but honestly can't be sure. Update. I'm saving all of my earnings from working at my aunt's flower shop. I also worked a bit at a gas station a few nights a week. That's helped a lot as I needed money to get to this state and have enough to survive till I find a job. My aunt helped me so much and I don't know what I would have done without her help. I've barely been speaking to my parents or Mary. It's been quite weird. They'll update me about things, but we aren't really speaking and everything is quite tense. I haven't told them that I've left for college and they haven't asked anything about it. It's kind of a bittersweet feeling being here. It seems surreal that I'm even at a college like this and I don't have to worry about loans and stuff. I'm so grateful I get this chance. But it also feels like I have no family now. My family weren't perfect by any means, but I felt like I had a place there. Somewhere I didn't have to question if I belonged. I feel kind of out of place here. It would have been so good to have my family cheer me on and give me advice or something. I'm not sure what I should be doing, and I wish my parents would be guiding me through this. But I also wouldn't trade this for anything. I think of being back in the bedroom that I shared with Mary and my niece, and it makes me feel like I've definitely made the right choice coming here. I have an awesome roommate. We're complete opposites, but she seems like a very good person, and we've been exploring the city together. So that helps a lot too. Would I be the jerk if I implemented the same rules regarding food that my mom enforced while I was growing up? My mom, 40 female, is coming to see me, 19 female, in 2 weeks, for the first time since I started university. Just for some context, my family moved abroad a year ago, and I haven't seen any of them since. The distance has given me time to reflect on some of my mother's strange, obsessive behaviors regarding food, and I've since realized that some of her actions were somewhat mistreating me. However, I use this term very lightly. To outline the situation, we were never allowed to take food from the kitchen without asking. If we were caught doing so, it was called stealing, and we would be shouted at or sometimes punished. It escalated at some points to locks being placed on the cupboards, a transparent meat lock being placed on the fridge, and a camera being installed in the kitchen. She would monitor how many times a day I'd be in the kitchen. If I had been in there too many times, she would chastise me, saying that I'm too obsessed with food, obsessed with always being in the kitchen, and that I have serious food issues. During secondary school, I was never sent to school with packed lunch, nor was any money put on my card so that I could buy food. At some point, I started to cook the family dinners, and the leftovers would always be allocated to my stepdad, whilst the rest of us would go to school with nothing. We would sometimes get takeout for dinner, but oftentimes my mom and stepdad got takeout only for themselves, saying that we weren't allowed any. Now, the instance in which I could possibly be the jerk is that I plan to treat my mom as she treated me in regards to food when she visits. I told my boyfriend of my plan to enforce these rules, that there will be a curfew for the kitchen, that she's not allowed to take or eat any food without permission, and if she does so, I will call her a thief. I was also thinking of ordering food for myself and telling her that she's not allowed to have any. I honestly just want to show her how ridiculous she is about food, but at the same time, I just want to be petty because why not? My boyfriend is telling me that it would be immature of me to do this, and that since my relationship with her is already difficult, it would be better if I just take the high road rather than adding fuel to the flames. My dad and sister also agree. Whilst I can't deny that doing this would be immature, I can't help but feel that she deserves a taste of her own medicine. So, would I be the jerk? And to all the people telling me to cut her off, I find it hard to completely resent her because she is my mother, and I recognize that she's done a lot for me. At the same time, that doesn't excuse her behavior. I've realized that she's a narcissistic parent, so I'm not expecting much or any accountability from her. I mean, why? Why bother? She's not going to apologize. You're not going to get any of the gratification you want. You'll just be secretly hoping she'll get annoyed so you can have a proper argument about it. Just don't let her come over. Am I the jerk for laughing when my wife's friend called her out and said she was better than her? I married my wife 9 years ago. As a longtime browser on this sub, I know a lot of you may ask if I actually like my wife or why I married her. There's a lot of reasons. I won't put you guys to sleep though. The simple answer is I do love my wife. We share a son together and I could not imagine a life without her. My only wish is that she wasn't so insecure, but she is also human. With that said, let's get started. My wife is 39 and struggles a lot with insecurity. To remedy this, she has surrounded herself with friends who truthfully she thinks lesser of. A lot of her friends have been out of shape, poor, mentally unstable and such, and my wife has admitted she feels like the stable and sensible one with all of them. When she's not talking about them like they're charity cases, she's usually insulting them. Before it's asked, my wife is in therapy and says she likes the therapist, but doesn't think she's truly the issue. Now her youngest friend, 31, Candy, was one of the many friends my wife used for her own security. Candy was sort of a mess as a teenager, barely passed high school, couldn't hold down a job, and was in and out of hospitals due to unmedicated mental health problems. I think my wife was probably the cruelest to her out of all of her friends because Candy never really stood up for herself. At some point, we didn't really understand how or what came over her, but Candy really did a 180, got medicated, got her degree, and is now living in a nice country house with a well-paying job, her husband, and 3 kids. Watching Candy change over the years has messed with my wife a lot. She's been crueler to her and constantly insults her house, her job, even how she raises her kids, and loves to mention all the mistakes Candy made when she was younger. Candy never said anything about it until yesterday. We were at her house around a fire, and my wife asked how Candy could even be a fit mom after all her mental health problems. And Candy, who is tipsy, looks at my wife and says, paraphrasing, You know, when I was young, I took your words to heart until I learned you were just as messed up as I was. And I realized to fully get back at all the ways you hurt me, there wasn't a point in telling you or asking you for an apology. It was simply by being better than you, and now I am." I laughed, not so much out of humor, but more shock. I got a death glare, followed by my wife abruptly walking to the car and a threatening text she'd leave me behind if I didn't follow. We drove home in silence. When we got back, my wife was crying in the bedroom. When I tried to comfort her, she chucked all my stuff in my direction and screamed at me to leave. I now write this at my parents, who don't think I'm wrong, but at the same time, they don't like my wife. Am I the jerk? You're not the jerk, but your wife is extremely messed up, and you might give some thought to taking your son and leaving before she messes him up. You're so close to her that you may not even have a good view of how being with a person like her changes your brain and your sense of reality and right and wrong. See a therapist for yourself. My mother was like her, and I'm looking at my stepfather after their 30 years together. He's a husk of the man he used to be. He had to essentially toss out his own mind and replace it with hers because it was the only way to avoid her cruelty and mistreatment and survive next to her. Do not mess with me at Costco. A couple weeks ago, after checking out at Costco, I was doing the normal routine for loading purchased items into the vehicle. I quickly and efficiently transferred everything from the cart to bags in the back seat of my trunk. This usually takes me about 90 seconds to do before returning the cart. I don't like to hold strangers up and generally want to get home and swim around in my Costco purchases like a middle-aged Scrooge McDuck. Halfway through said process, some guy pulls up behind my truck and puts on his signal, intending to take my space as soon as I'm done. No problem, I'm moving fast. But then this jerk has the audacity to look impatient after about 3 seconds and vigorously waves his hand for me to hurry up. Seriously, dude, you just got here and you're trying to rush me? My process is flawless, and you have the gall to act like I need to hop to your tune? This triggered my pettiness. I'm sorry, my dude, but I'm no longer in control of what happens. This is between you and petty me now. I'm just an innocent bystander. So I immediately stopped my fast and efficient process of packing the vehicle and switched to molasses mode. I slowly moved every item in, one at a time. I pulled out a bag of seaweed snacks and started to look over the top of my glasses to really examine it. I slowly read its description out loud, then I looked around as if to find a bystander to discuss the purchase with. I resumed. More items went in. When he looked like he was about to give up, I'd act like I was done. Then discover, nope, more items still in the cart. I drug this out for about 5 minutes, making him wallow in place, trapped by the sunken cost of how long he had already waited. I'm now done and getting behind the wheel. He seemed relieved, like the blood vessel he was about to rupture with impotent rage finally easing. So I back my truck up slowly. I stop, pull forward to reposition, and then slowly back again. I'm channeling my inner Colin Robinson and making this process as excruciating as possible. I backed up slowly, far more than I needed, until he thought I was going to hit him and started to honk, and I finally drove away. I know this doesn't compare to most of the petty stuff on here, but it amused me and I wanted to share. Edit. I forgot to mention the car return was directly opposite my truck in the aisle. I'm quite tall and took very slow, deliberate strides. Unfortunately, the return was empty, or I would have spent time nesting and adjusting all the carts for better spiritual alignment. Edit 2. I forgot the other masterstroke of time wasting, sitting there with the reverse lights on but not moving, knowing the slight surge of relief, thinking I'm finally going to leave, when in reality I was describing to my partner what's been going on and why I'm wasting time. Sister-in-law loses it on me for calling my wife beautiful in front of her. I, male 29, am a doctor, and my wife, female 29, is in another high-demand, high-pay field with long hours. I've recently been working more odd hours, as opposed to my wife's normal 8-about-6 routine. As such, we have not really seen much of each other for about a week. We're just normally very lovey-dovey, cuddly, and all that kind of stuff. Also, her sister, female 33, has recently divorced from her husband, for reasons that are irrelevant in my opinion. Just for context, her sister had an Indian-style arranged marriage, and she does not see the point of love marriages in general. She's taking this quite hard, as in India, where she got her previous marriage from, there's sadly a lot of stigma surrounding women who have divorced, which means if she doesn't find a love marriage, she will likely be alone for the rest of her life, as very few people will want to arrange a marriage with her. I personally think the whole concept of arranged marriages is fine, but a lot of the standards and stigmas surrounding it are quite backwards. So my sister has been staying with me and my wife. We're okay with it, and she's honestly a very nice roommate, always cleaning up after herself, super respectful of our rules in our house. Recently, my wife and I got lucky, and I had my workday end at 5 on Friday, and she came home early. We were pretty excited, and once we were both home, we were together. We decided to watch a movie together for a while, and we were lying on the couch cuddling, sweet-talking to each other a little bit. Her sister came into the room and sat down on the other couch and watched the movie. We weren't really saying anything, to be honest, just stuff like how we missed each other, how it was so painful to be without each other, how we loved each other a lot, that sort of stuff. I was trying to be soft, because the sister looked like she was actually watching the film, but at one point I just held my wife's face and told her, "You're the most beautiful woman in the world." I didn't notice it at the time, but I believe that was when her sister left the room. Later on in the night, after my wife had gone off to prepare for bed, her sister came out and yelled at me. She basically accused me of cuddling with my wife specifically to mock the fact that she doesn't have a husband anymore, and that I was saying that she wasn't beautiful when I told my wife that she was the most beautiful. I tried to calm her down, but she got more riled up, fixating on comparisons between my wife and her, getting a bit too close to me for my liking and asking me questions like, "What makes her hotter than me?" She then held out for a hug, crying a bit, but I shook my head because I was a bit concerned how she went from yelling at me to wanting physical comfort. Eventually, she just backed off and said okay, tearfully, and walked away. Am I the jerk for saying this? Should I have just given her a hug? She yelled at you and then went in for a hug? Holy passive-aggressive, Batman. Not the jerk. She's envious and she's projecting. Not only that, I'm concerned that sister-in-law may try to create issues in OP's marriage. The fact that she waited for her sister to leave before trying to seek affection in her husband is telling worrying. Imagine if they did hug, then sister-in-law will tell sister that her husband hugged her and called her beautiful. Sister-in-law needs to go stat. OP, I really hope you told your wife what happened. Even if you aren't specifically hiding it from her, if the sister decides to spin this against you, it will look so much worse if you haven't already told your wife about it in detail. The first person to tell the story is usually the one that gets believed, so don't let the sister be the one your wife finds out from. Not the jerk. The sister's issues are not your issues, and she's making them your issues. You and your wife need to sit down and have a chat with her about boundaries. She's trampling all over yours. Her misery is not your problem. You guys have helped her out, and you're there for her. Now she's becoming a problem. It needs to be nipped in the bud if you want to keep your home feeling like a homely place for you and your wife. That's the priority here, and you should be prioritizing your wife and your marriage over her sister's sadness. My Karen girlfriend wants me to get rid of my dog because she's older and it will be too costly to keep her. Me and my girlfriend have been dating for 6 years. I brought a dog into the relationship who was 5 years old at the time. The dog is currently 11. I had conversations with my girlfriend about this and the possibility of another dog. The first thing she said was, "No, dogs in general are expensive." Which reminds me, you should get rid of the brat we have right now because old dogs like her are so much more expensive. After she said this, I told her that the dog was my best friend and something I would never get rid of because she means too much to me. I told her that the dog matters more to me than money. She got upset. She said the dog should matter less than what she wants because we've been dating for 6 years. I simply got up and left the room so I could calm down. The dog has never been a problem. She hasn't had to do anything with her other than feed her at night when I'm at work. The dog hasn't ever been a problem in the time we've been dating. She's mostly lazy, and the most she does is a daily walk that my girlfriend hasn't ever had to do. I've owned this dog for longer than we've been dating, and this dog gave me the love that I wasn't able to get from anyone. How can I tell my girlfriend that I'm not going to get rid of my dog? I don't want to cause more problems than needed, but I do care about my girlfriend, and I don't want to lose her because of something as stupid as this. Edit. Thanks for the advice. I didn't think there would be so many people helping me. I have decided, when I have the time, to get rid of the girlfriend. I can't be with someone who, like many of you have said, will not care for me when I'm old and sick with her, or who will divorce and leave me when our kids turn out to be too expensive. Me and Pupper will live our best life without that weight on our shoulders. You need to be straight up with her. I'd be concerned at this point about how she treats your dog when you're not around. To word this in the gentlest way possible, I don't suppose it's with kindness. I seriously think you need to walk away with your dog. Yeah, I would seriously be concerned that one day you're gonna come home to find your dog gone, with your girlfriend saying, "Gosh, he must have gotten out and run away, I guess." and not knowing if she actually drove him 100 miles away and left him in the woods, or took him to a vet to have him put down. Your girlfriend sounds absolutely horrible, and I honestly wouldn't trust her if I were you. I've been with my boyfriend for over 8 years. We got our cat after about 4 years of dating, and if he ever told me to get rid of my cat, my boyfriend would find himself single and alone. I think deep down, you know what to do in this situation. Am I the jerk for kicking a couple out of our wedding for getting engaged during the bouquet toss? My wife and I, 26 female and 32 male, got married 2 weeks ago. At our reception, her cousin, Rachel, who's 24, caught the bouquet. Apparently, her boyfriend, Ross, who's 25, had been carrying a ring around waiting for the right time to propose and decided her catching the bouquet was a sign. So immediately after Rachel caught the bouquet, Ross ran out to the dance floor and got down on one knee to propose to her. She said yes, and so obviously this shifted all of the attention onto Ross and Rachel. Everyone surrounded them to congratulate them, and then Rachel asked the DJ to play their song for them to dance, which derailed the next few things we had planned. I already wasn't happy about this because we only had the photographer available for a certain number of hours, and I was worried about going off the schedule. But what really upset me was that I could see that my wife's feelings were obviously very hurt that Ross and Rachel were stealing our thunder. My wife is really not the type of person to want a lot of attention or to be comfortable spending a lot of money on herself, so our wedding was the one special day when she was able to do so without feeling guilty about it, and seeing it ruined for her was awful. I decided to ask Ross and Rachel to leave, and at the time my wife agreed with me. So when I had the chance, I pulled Ross aside to tell him that I didn't appreciate him upstaging us and that I thought it would be best if he and Rachel left early so we could enjoy the rest of the night. Ross started arguing with me, saying that I was acting nuts, which caused more of a scene than I expected or wanted because a small group of our wedding guests overheard the conversation and jumped in with their opinions. Ross and Rachel did ultimately agree to leave, but for the rest of the night, people were talking not just about them getting engaged, but also about me kicking them out. Everyone was on our side, but even so, my wife and I weren't happy that people continued to talk more about Ross and Rachel. The reason we wanted them to leave was because we didn't want to keep being reminded all night of the stunt they had pulled on us instead of being able to simply celebrate our marriage with our friends and family. My wife has since said that it was wrong to kick out Ross and Rachel, and we should have pretended to be happy for them in the moment so as to not further ruin the night because people would have talked less about it that way. Rachel's mother has also complained to my wife's mother about me kicking them out, saying that we should have brought it up to them privately later instead of causing a squabble, because now that's the only thing anyone is going to remember about our wedding and or about Ross and Rachel's engagement. I do still think that Ross and Rachel, mostly Ross, were the jerks in this situation. But was I also the jerk? Not the jerk. While I get it was a spur-of-the-moment engagement, it was not appropriate. That could almost have been forgiven if they hadn't pushed it further. Then going to the DJ to play their song was completely out of line. I'd be mad at the DJ too. He shouldn't be taking requests from people who aren't the bride and groom. They should have realized the time and place and the middle of your wedding wasn't it. Edit. For those hung up on my spur-of-the-moment wording, I chose that because OP stated Ross had been carrying the ring around already. He was looking for the perfect moment. If it was his first time carrying the ring, I wouldn't have called it the spur of the moment. He, however, had been carrying around a ring for an undisclosed amount of time. Decide how you want. Edit 2. It's debatable if it was spur of the moment or not. He had been carrying the ring for an undisclosed amount of time. Intentional or not, Ross and Rachel were still in the wrong. It's not appropriate to get engaged at someone else's wedding. Keep downvoting me for whatever you are, but I am in no way condoning the engagement at their wedding. Am I the jerk for telling a guy at the gym to leave me alone? At the beginning of this year, I wanted to commit to working out again. At first, I started at home in my garage, and more recently I decided to join an actual gym again. It's only a 4-minute drive from my husband and I's house, so it's perfect. Here's my problem though. 2 weeks ago, while I was deadlifting, a guy came up to me and interrupted my workout to tell me I was rounding my back, and I could seriously get hurt that way. I was kind of annoyed because I don't like when people give me unsolicited advice and interrupt my workouts, as well as what he was saying just wasn't true because I wasn't rounding my back at all, as I used to compete in powerlifting for a few years before I took a 2-year break from the gym. I know what proper form is and how to keep it. He seemed like a nice guy, so I just told him thanks, but I've got it. That was the end of that interaction. The next day, as I was in the gym, the same guy comes up to me, interrupts my workout again to ask me my name. I tell him my name, he tells me his, and I put my headphones back on and continue my workout. I know I maybe came off as rude, But like I said, I don't like being interrupted in the gym. Unless you're asking me how many sets I have left so you can use the equipment, there's nothing else to talk about, and I don't want to engage in conversation. That's just how I am. When I was about to leave, he stops me again and hands me his phone to put my number into it and tells me that we should train sometimes. I told him that if I was going to train with anyone, it would be my husband, and I declined his phone. I thought that might let him know that I'm not interested, but over the course of 2 weeks, he's been constantly trying to speak to me, interrupting me whenever he sees me. Trying to get to know me on a personal level, he's asked me out to smoothies after the gym multiple times, and he's tried more than once to get my number. I constantly remind him that I'm happily married. I usually just fake smile and laugh, and respond very short and simple anytime we speak. Like I said, he seems like a nice guy, but I'm not in the gym to make friends or cheat on my husband. I truly just want to work out and listen to my music, but I'm constantly having to take my headphones off to give this man attention, and now I'm spending more time in the gym because I have to catch up on what I'm really there to do, and the talking is distracting. It's wasting a lot of time. So yesterday while at the gym, he comes up to me again while I'm in the middle of a set of goblet squats, and he taps me on the shoulder to get my attention. He snuck up behind me and did it, so it really startled me and I dropped the weight. I finally had enough and I snapped. I took my headphones off and told him to leave me alone. He told me he was just trying to say hi, and I guess he was embarrassed or something because he just walked out of the gym after that. I found that weird because didn't you come here to work out too? It's like he only came here to talk to me, and when I told him to leave me alone, he just left. I finished my workout and I left. Now I'm kind of worried about the gym because I know he'll be there and I honestly don't want to deal with him anymore. I simply want to work out. Am I the jerk here, and should I apologize when I see him today? Update. I posted yesterday about this annoying guy at my gym and I wanted to share the good news. So last night I waited for my husband to get home from work. He got home at 9, we ate dinner quickly, and we got to the gym around 9:45. I usually go at 8, but he usually comes in around 8:30, so if the guy went to the gym, I knew he'd either be gone already or on his way out. So when we got to the gym, I told my husband to just do his own thing and I'll text him if I need him. He told me he'd keep an eye out for me as well. Things were going fine for about 10 minutes until I see him. He had his gym bag and looked to be leaving, but then he saw me too and started to approach me. I have no clue what his intentions were and I didn't want to find out. I immediately got up and started walking towards the front desk, and he stupidly followed me all the way there. It caught the attention of my husband, who was across the room, and he started to follow us both too. When I got to the front desk, I didn't wait. I just blurted out to the workers, "This man won't stop harassing me." What happened next really ticked me off because he tried to lie his way out of it and pretend he's been helping me out. He tried saying that he thought we were just gym buddies and friends and that he was just going to come say hey and catch up. My husband called BS and told him he knew everything and to stay away from me. The guy tried to defend himself by saying that he only ever gave me advice on training and he doesn't like false accusations. At this point, because we were being so loud, the person who I assume is the gym manager heard us from his office, came out and pulled him outside to talk. They stepped out to talk while my husband and I stayed at the front desk, telling the other workers what's been going on the past few weeks. A few minutes later, the manager comes back inside and tells us that we don't have to worry about him anymore and that he's been taken care of. I saw the guy walk into his car to leave. I felt dumb in that moment because I realized the solution to my problem was that simple. I never even needed my husband to come in there in the first place. I'm not sure if he got banned or simply kicked out for the night. I guess when I go back tonight, I'll find out and I'll have my husband accompany me again just in case. But the rest of our gym session went great. He never showed back up, thank God. These past 2 weeks really made me want to stop going because I didn't want to deal with him every time, but I'm just really happy I can work out in peace again. Am I the jerk for telling my niece that her brother will always mean more to me than her? When I, 43 female, was 18 and my sister, 47, who was 22 female at the time, had a nephew, let's call him Luke, with her then boyfriend, now husband. My sister and her husband didn't have any interest in Luke when he was born, so I took the role of taking care of him. I got my grandmother, she's an angel, to watch him while I was in my last year of high school in exchange for me cleaning and cooking for her on the weekends. My parents weren't much help either. They would give me about $100 a month for Luke, and if you have a kid, then you know that's not much. Me and my grandmother were the only ones to take care of him. A year after I graduated from high school, I was kicked out with my nephew because my parents, sister, and her husband didn't want to deal with us anymore. My sister said she wished she never had had him. I immediately went to my grandmother and we went to a family law attorney and I got custody of him, and my sister and her husband signed their rights over to me. I lived with my grandmother, and when I went to community college and my part-time job, she watched my son, Luke. It was a lot of work, especially when my grandmother passed when my son was 6. My grandmother left 90% of her things to me in her will, which caused my parents and sister to reach out to me under false intentions to meet my son and I and reconnect. That didn't last long, and I told them they could either act right or never see us again. My dad decided to actually reconnect with my son and I, and now we're close. While my mom and I don't really talk much, but she treats Luke nice. When Luke was 8, both me and my sister became pregnant, and that's when my sister decided she wanted my son back and started to tell him that me and my husband wouldn't love him anymore once my actual son came along. My husband met my son when he was 5, and we were already together for a year before he met my son. My husband treats Luke like his, and we got married when my son was 7, and he adopted him when he was 9, with my son's permission. We found out that my sister was saying this when one day he broke down crying, asking us not to leave him, and we told him this would never happen. He explained what my sister and her husband had been saying. Luke knows that he's not my biological son, but he is my son. After that, I cut contact with my sister and her husband again and did family therapy and individual therapy for my son. When I had my son, 1 pregnancy and 2 kids, I made it clear that our love for him, Luke, didn't change. When my sister reached out about 2 years later, I decided to go low contact with her with the okay with my son and husband. My husband and I live comfortably, while my sister and her husband struggle sometimes financially. My kids did extracurricular activities, got the presents they wanted, and went on one big family trip in the summer, while my sister and her husband couldn't afford much. So when my niece was around 9, my sister started making comments about how I needed to pay for this or that for my niece, but I told her it wasn't my job. I gave my niece the gifts she wanted, took her out from time to time, but nowhere near how I would treat my own kids. Now my son, 2nd, is turning 17, and my husband and I were talking about getting him a cheap starter car. We did the same for Luke when he was 17. My niece is also turning 17, and apparently my sister told her she was going to get a car too. The thing is, my sister can't afford to buy her a car, so she asked me to, but I told her I wasn't going to buy her a car, that I didn't promise her one, and that it's not my job to get her one. My sister then got mad and didn't talk to me for a while. When my son's 17th birthday came around, we surprised him with a car. My niece then called me a couple of days later, screaming and crying, asking why I hate her and why I can't treat her the same as her brother. I calmly told her that things were different. Her brother is my son, while she's my niece. I'm her aunt and nothing more. That as an aunt, my job was birthday presents, Christmas presents, and showing up when it mattered. That was it. That her brother will always mean more to me than she'll ever be. Then my niece started yelling at me again, telling me that I'm being unfair and hung up. My sister then called me to go off on me about how I need to do more. I told her if she wouldn't have promised her a car from my money, then none of this would have happened. It's been a couple of days, and I'm getting calls from family and some of my sister's friends calling me names and other things. I do feel bad because my kids did grow up with more, and I guess I could have helped more. So, am I the jerk for what I said to my niece? Not the jerk. You adopted their first kid, already way more than a whole lot of people would have done. Am I the jerk for causing a mass exodus from my uncle's barbecue? I'm 32, female. My uncle, male 71, and his wife, who's 69, recently hosted a family barbecue at their home. This is normally a rotating thing, so everyone in the family takes turns hosting. My uncle is a very difficult man to get along with, and I mostly win because it's important to my mom, who's 66. He's very rigid in his beliefs and will make it very clear to you if you have done something to offend him. Once that has happened, there is no chance for redemption regardless of whether you're family, friends, or a stranger. While at the barbecue, everyone was standing around, and my daughter, who's 6, helped herself to a banana from the fruit bowl. Now obviously, you shouldn't take anything that doesn't belong to you without asking, but she's 6 and manners are still being learned. Not saying she was right in this. That being said, my uncle lost his mind. He called her a thieving brat and started threatening to call the cops. I stepped in and he told me to pack up my stuff and go because he didn't want thieves in his home. He told me that neither myself, my daughter, or my husband, who's 33, would ever be welcome again because clearly this was a taught behavior. I was furious. I told my uncle that this intolerance was why he has no friends and why we only visit his home out of obligation. I told him that without my mom's family values, there wouldn't be anyone at the barbecue. In the middle of this, he pulled out his phone to call Mr. Police and ask how she would survive in prison. My daughter was beside herself, so I gathered her and my husband and we left. Apparently, after we left, my uncle was ranting and raving, and eventually my cousin, female 24, not his kid, told my uncle he was lucky he didn't try this with someone else in the family because I was still polite in what I said. She told him that she refused to eat at the home of someone who thought it was okay to act like this. As my cousin left, apparently quite a few people followed, and suddenly it was just my uncle and his wife left. His wife has been calling me, telling me that I humiliated him in his own home, and I can't expect his generation to be polite. She has also told me that he has been moping ever since because he feels like an outcast in the family and that I shouldn't have been so harsh. I'm glad I stood up for my daughter, but I never intended for anyone to leave as a result of the banana. Now I wonder if I was too much. Was I the jerk? Not the jerk. His behavior is beyond absurd. Obviously, acting the way he did was awful, and you were right to not tolerate it. Your kid did nothing wrong. Anyone would assume that food set out at a family barbecue is there for guests to eat. I'd never expect anyone to ask me for food I'd put out. Your uncle is obviously upset that you called out his crappy behavior, and everyone agrees with you. He's likely unaware that he's actually sad because men of older generations were taught only to express anger. I won the lottery. Now my mom demands I share my heavenly blessings with my family. I, 23 female, live at home. I finished high school, but I didn't have the marks or the money to go to college. I'm smart. I just spent a lot of my free time helping around the house with my 3 younger siblings. I got a job at the convenience store by my house full-time, and I work with my mom at the local dollar store. I give most of my paycheck to my parents to help with the rent and food. I keep $50 a week to spend on myself, and I save $100 a month for my future. I also buy scratchers. Not a crazy amount. I don't drink or smoke. I don't really have any bad habits, I guess, but I do buy a scratcher every blue moon. My mom says they are a tax on the stupid and against God's word because it's gambling. My dad says if I have money to spend on them, I should be contributing more to the house. My brother is 20 and he has a job, but he doesn't have to contribute because he has a girlfriend and he's saving to pay for their wedding and trailer. I honestly like living at home and seeing my little sister and brother every day. Anyways, I won. Not Powerball money or anything. It's a lottery where you get a certain amount of money every week for 20 years. It's more money every week than I take home in 2 months. I know people who won sometimes lose it all, but I took my time and did some studying at the library. I went to my bank and they helped me get a lawyer, an accountant, and they have set me up with a financial planner. I was going to keep working and giving my parents the money like I always do, and I like working. But my mom found out I had money for some special treats for my little brother and sister. Nothing big, just a Switch and some games. She thought I was wasting my savings and that if I had extra, she could use it better. I don't know why, but I told her that I won the money and now she wants it. It's heavenly bounty and I should give a tithe and offering to the church. I go to church, but I don't think I believe anymore. I haven't for a while. I told her no, and she said I had to move out then, so I did. I went to a hotel. My bank put me in contact with a real estate agent and I'm buying an apartment. Just 1 room, but it's nicer than my house. I'm not working right now because she told everyone. Now everyone is asking for money. But I don't want to give people I barely know money. I've set up an education account for my younger brother and sister, and I set aside $5,000 from my savings to give my other brother when he gets married. But my mom is saying she wants to retire and that I'm being selfish. I don't think I am. Am I the jerk? A tax on the stupid. Against God's word. Give me that. I want to retire. What you've done for your siblings is perfect. Moving out is perfect. Take care of the things you need and want to care about. Your mother's hypocrisy is not your problem or responsibility. Not the jerk. Be careful with the bank, financial planners, and accountants. Trust no one with your money. Double check all the information, accounts, and books. Stick to your plans. You do not owe anyone anything. Create the trusts for your sibling and have a lawyer make it ironclad your mom cannot get it at all. You will be asked for money to fund business ideas and everything else you can think of for your money. Save all you can, because soon people may start the lawsuits for every little thing which costs money to defend unless you settle out of court, which is what they want. A good lawyer can make them have to pay court costs, saving you a lot of money. Just keep your head up and you do not need to donate to anything that you don't feel like. It's your money, not your mom's or anyone else's. If you start getting guilted into giving people money, cut them out, and move on. Well, what would you do in this situation? Would you give your mom the money she wants or not? Please let us know.
Rule number 1 of having lots of money: never tell anyone you have lots of money. It's always wiser to blend in with those around you than to stick out like a sore thumb and set yourself up to be targeted.
Karen and I just might hit a lick on you.
Skirt, skirt.
Am I the jerk for bringing my sister-in-law's wallet to the restaurant when she conveniently always forgets it? I'm 28, female. My sister-in-law, Amy, who's 26, always comes to visit from out of town. She stays with us instead of a hotel and always wants to go to expensive restaurants. She always conveniently forgets her wallet or comes up with some excuses as to why she can't pay her share. She has implied that since I make much more money than her, I should be the one to pay. No, not my husband should pay, but me specifically. I do make a fair amount of money, but not so much that I can treat someone every time they come into town. Nonetheless, in the past, I've just paid the bill and asked her to pay me back. She never has. She had made a reservation at an extremely expensive restaurant last night, and before we left, I made it clear that I wouldn't be paying her bill. This is where I might be the jerk, and I'll admit I got this move straight from an episode of 2.5 Men. As we were leaving, her and my husband went to the car. I pretended I forgot something and went back inside. I found her wallet sitting right on top of her suitcase. I put it in my purse and we went to the restaurant. When we were done eating, I asked for separate bills. She said, no, we need one bill because she forgot her wallet again. I reached in my purse and said, this wallet? She was extremely furious. She said that I should not have touched or grabbed her wallet. So, am I the jerk for taking her wallet and bringing it to the restaurant? Edit. Amy just called me. She saw this post and she yelled at me for bad-mouthing her on the internet. Honestly, I don't care. Amy, hopefully reading all these comments is a wake-up call for you. Some answers to common questions. Why does my husband keep letting Amy come over? Without getting into too much detail, he has always been expected to pay for nice things for the women in his family. He's also kind of been scammed out of large sums of money by his family. That's slowly been shut down over time, but we're working on shutting down these dinner and outing things too. He allows this because he feels bad that they don't have a lot of money. It's sad, but that's how his family got along for a very long time, being dishonest about anything and everything to get their hands on some extra money and extra financial help. I could write a book on some of the things I've seen them do over the years. It hasn't been easy to show these people how wrong this is. He has talked to Amy about being cheap, has had come-to-Jesus talks with her, and genuinely has always felt that each next time would be different. We've been in therapy addressing this, and he's learned to set boundaries. This restaurant thing is a boundary that he hadn't set yet. It's hard to set all boundaries all at once when you actually had no clue what boundaries were and have had no boundaries for years. Does he pay too? We're married. My money is his money. When I mentioned Amy specifies I should pay, I meant more that she specifies since I make good money, we as a whole shouldn't be cheap. What was the point if you ended up paying? I knew Amy wasn't going to pay. She always finds a way not to pay. I went to the restaurant fully expecting to pay the bill. I did this because I saw it on a show and I thought it would be funny to do in real life, to be completely honest. The point wasn't really to get her to pay, it was more to show her that the forgot my wallet excuse was getting old. Is Amy banned from visiting? Fortunately, this post turned out to be a good thing. My husband has always had it in his head that Amy is a good person and has her reasons for being sneaky and cheap, like I mentioned above. In his head, it's not her fault that she is the way she is. It's the circumstances of their upbringing that cause her to make bad decisions. But seeing Amy's reply to my post and people's responses to Amy has really changed his thinking. That's the first time Amy has outright admitted that she's purposely taking advantage. Reading some of the other comments has also been eye-opening for him. So husband told Amy that she's not welcome here, at least not for a long while. Judgment. Thanks for lots of not the jerks, but I liked one commenter's, sometimes it's okay to be the jerk. I think that's exactly what it was here. It was a jerk move, but also outweighed by Amy's being a jerk. Thanks again, this is the end of this. I won't be giving any more updates or comments. Not the jerk, but you totally should have flipped the switch. Left your wallet at home, only brought your license, so she had to cover the whole bill, then never take her out to a restaurant again. Not the jerk. That was a boss move. But if you want to keep it up without getting accused of touching her things, when you're in the car, don't let your husband start driving until she shows you that she has her wallet on her. You told her right up front, I'm not paying this time. and she tried to push you into it. Honestly, I don't know why you keep going out with her. Cancel, or insist your husband pays. Like, what does he say about all of this? Because he needs to have a chat with his sister about how she's taking advantage of your generosity. Next time she stays and says there's a reservation, "Oh, hey, I hope you guys have a nice time. Yeah, I'm not going. I'm getting tired of you continuously trying to do me over." ETA. In regards to OP's edit, Amy, your sister-in-law couldn't badmouth you if you didn't give her plenty of ammo. You're saying she's badmouthing you? She's just telling people what you did. If you feel some kind of way about it, that means you're aware that you done messed up. Stop being mad at other people for reacting to your bad behavior. Change your bad behavior. Grow as a person. Usually, I'm against people touching other people's property, but in this case, well done. Be aware that next time she will be hiding her wallet, but maybe just refuse to go out to dinner if she doesn't bring her wallet or card. Let her know if she doesn't pay, she will not be going out with you and your husband, and make it clear that your hospitality is a courtesy, not an obligation. She's very welcome to stay in a hotel next time if she doesn't abide by the rules and respects you. Your husband's family might start harassing you after you establish the rules, so might be worth having a dialogue with your husband and having him be the bad cop. If the family complains, tell them that they are welcome to pay your sister-in-law's expenses, including past dinners if you have the receipts or bank statements. I got here late, and everyone is saying you rock, what a power move, awesome idea, etc. This is one of those votes that leaves me hanging my head in despair. You went into someone's deeply personal property. This is absolutely the wrong thing to do. Two wrongs don't make a right. Is there any situation that you would be okay with someone not in your immediate family taking your wallet out with them and then spending your money on something? I will concede that the ongoing behavior of Amy is egregiously awful, but not sure this isn't worse. The only saving grace in my eyes is that more appropriate responses might have been triggering or challenging for your husband to deal with. Everyone sucks here. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or Amy? Please let us know.
Oh, I can't stand freeloaders. You know what else I can't stand, Reddit boy? People who watch our videos but don't even click the thumbs up.
Whoa, easy there, Karen. It takes a fair amount of effort to, tap that button with your thumb. Who's going to pay for your daughter's summer camp? We do, with pleasure. I was a Girl Guides leader for ages 10 through 13, and it was time for the kids to tell us if they would be going on the annual summer camp or not. We needed that info to plan ahead. So one of our weekly meetings, I asked around who would go and who would definitely not. Cora, one of our older ones, told me that nope, she wouldn't go with us. Cora was a determined guide, came to every event, so I was surprised and asked her why. She explained to me that her parents were divorcing and both parents stated that they would not pay and the other one should pay. What I knew, every Scouts group here has a fund for the kids whose parents might not be able to pay for summer camp, etc. The kids I was looking after usually had rich parents. Cora's parents were a lawyer and a doctor. The money was not an issue. Pride was. I decided to take them up on that pride. So I went to the chief of the group and told her what was happening. Cora wanted to go to summer camp. Her parents were fighting about payment. Did we have the funds to finance that trip for her in principle? And I did get the go. So I first called the mother and told her that Cora told me about the situation and that I perfectly understood the conflict. However, Cora was a girl guide to the bones. She wanted to go on the camp, and we, the group, would make that possible if they allowed. That we had those funds for the financially challenged ones, that I had asked the responsible person, and that no matter what, the money for her to go to that camp was there. That I knew finances were not the issue, but that Cora deserved those 2 weeks, and until this conflict was solved, that we didn't care of her background, we'd front that money. We just wanted her to be able to participate because she was a good guide and that we didn't want to take that experience from her. Good news, yay. I hung up, dialed her dad's number, and told him the same. At the next week's meeting, I told Cora the good news, that no matter what, she could join us. She told me that this wasn't an issue anymore. She had come for sure. Now her parents were fighting over who would be the first one to pay. I pay. No, I pay. Those 2 words, financially challenged, were the key words that hurt them. I'm not a manipulative person. I could, but I have a strong dislike of it. However, if you tell me that nobody's going to pay for your daughter's summer camp, I'll gladly comply. Gates are open, please come in. Am I the jerk for wanting my parents in town, but not at my house while I'm adjusting to life with a newborn? I, 24 female, am currently pregnant, due in December. I live with my fiance, Dan, in the town where I grew up. I have a great relationship with my parents, but they had me quite late in life and they're both retired now, living in a beach town in the south. When they moved out, they sold me the house I grew up in well below market value in exchange for me hosting them when they needed or wanted to come into town. It's been like that for 2 years. They've been here a bunch of times for 3 to 4 days at a time, and it's been a good arrangement, I think. Now, yesterday, I was talking to my mom about the birth, and I brought up that I would like for her to be in town when I give birth and to stay for a few weeks after. Dan has no relationship with his family, and I'm an only child, with only a couple of very elderly aunts and a few cousins I don't have much of a relationship with, so we don't really have much in terms of a support system. Therefore, I'd love for my parents to come here and help around the house, with the baby, offer me the emotional support I know I'm going to need, etc. My mom was excited that I was asking her to do this and said that she'd be okay with staying with us for a few weeks while we adjusted to the baby. I then told her that I didn't mean her staying with us, just in town, as I believe Dan and I are going to need and want alone time to adjust to the baby. My mom was a little offended, saying that she wasn't going to bother us and she was going to help out, but I told her it was nothing personal. I just preferred if she got a hotel or Airbnb or something. My father then intervened, having been somewhere within the earshot, and said that accommodation was going to be really expensive around that time of the year. Our town has a very famous big Christmas market, and he wasn't about to spend thousands of dollars when I was asking them to come, and it had been our arrangement when they sold me the house that they could stay whenever they wanted. Which, like, fair, but I don't think that having a newborn at home is just a regular time in someone's life, and it's not like I ever complained about them coming over before. I just don't want them in the house, but I do want to have them in town, and I feel a little sad that they are putting money above me and their grandson. My mother hung up the call, trying to appease the situation, but then sent me a text saying that her and my dad were a little upset over the whole thing and that they thought I was being unreasonable. When Dan got home, I told him all of this, and he kind of sided with them, saying that they should be allowed to stay with us, but I still don't think it makes sense, as we're going to be needing our alone time. Was I the jerk here? Yep, you're the jerk. You asked them to come. It's not like it was them imposing on you right after you gave birth. You knew before you asked that the arrangement you have with them is that they stay in your home. It's a lot to ask that they come and spend thousands on lodging so they can come help you clean your house and care for your baby. The baby isn't born yet. You have time. Figure out a way that you and your husband can have alone time while still hosting your parents. They sound like good people. Just explain it to them. I would guess husband will be at work at some point over those weeks, so ask them if they would be okay making themselves scarce a few evenings a week so that you, your husband, and baby can have time together. They can go out to dinner together or just retreat to their room after dinner, assuming you have a guest room for them. You're the jerk. Either let them stay at your house or you pay for their hotel, Airbnb, or whatever yourself, or don't expect them to visit. They're doing you a favor. A second favor, since they already sold you their house at well below market value in exchange for you letting them stay there when they visit. I'm not saying you're a jerk for not wanting house guests when you have a new baby. I just think that you can't demand that they visit for an extended period to help you, but insist that they pay their own way. You're the jerk. Look, I'm all for not hosting people right after having a baby. That's totally reasonable. What is unreasonable is to expect your parents to come into town for a month, do chores for you, and foot the bill for a hotel. That's not a visit, it's a maid service. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her parents? Please let us know.
I can't fathom how anyone would expect their parents to spend thousands of dollars on lodging to come visit them for a month. This is crazy. I just can't.
My best friend is telling me that my boyfriend cheated with her, but he says she's lying. I've been best friends with Becca since 2010. We were college roommates, and then after we graduated, we still lived together until I moved in with my boyfriend, Nate, in 2019. One thing about Becca is that she's always had a drinking problem for as long as I've known her, and she's done stuff when she was drinking that has sometimes caused problems in our friendship. She does try to stay sober, but every few years something will happen to make her start again, which is what happened earlier this summer. So last Saturday, Becca picked me up because she'd been drinking somewhere and needed a ride home. I couldn't go pick her up because I had the flu and I was on cold medicine, so Nate went to get her instead. A couple of days after that, I started noticing that Nate was being weird with his phone. Normally, he leaves it out on the coffee table if we're watching TV or whatever, but he started putting it face down so I couldn't see what notifications he was getting. My first thought was that he was trying to plan a surprise, and because of the timing, I thought that maybe Becca was helping him. Yesterday when I saw Becca, I told her that Nate was being sneaky all of a sudden and asked her if he had said anything about maybe proposing soon. She asked me if I looked through his phone, and I said no. Becca started crying and told me that she and Nate hooked up in his car that night when he came to pick her up. Her excuse was that she had been drinking and didn't fully know what she was doing. She said she had been texting him since, telling him that he needed to tell me what happened or else she was going to. I asked Becca to show me the texts, but they were all in the app Signal, which deletes messages after a day, so all I could see was that she and Nate had a chat thread, but nothing that they said. I told her to text Nate in front of me so I could see what he said, and she did, but we got no read receipt and no response at all, so it didn't prove anything. I asked Becca if she was sure she wasn't so drunk that she maybe imagined it or it was a dream instead, and she absolutely lost it on me and said that she knows that she's horrible when she does this, but she's not delusional and she doesn't make things up. She said that I could believe her or not, and it's my choice, but she was telling me the truth. I said I needed to go home and talk to Nate. So when I got home, I confronted Nate with what Becca had said, and he acted shocked and denied that anything like that had happened at all and said he didn't know why she'd think that or say it. He said that he had just given Becca a ride home, and the only thing that happened was that they talked about how he and I had been together for a long time and how we should get married already. He admitted that they were talking on Signal the next couple of days, but he said that it was about exactly what I thought, that he was asking her about engagement rings and what kind of proposal I would want. Nate replied to Becca's message from before, asking her if she made up a story about them hooking up to not ruin the surprise about his proposal, and she texted him back that there was no proposal and to stop playing dumb. So then Nate called her, pretending like I wasn't in the room, and told her that she needed to stop whatever she was trying to do because we were on the verge of breaking up, and he'd rather just have the surprise be ruined, but Becca kept telling Nate to stop lying until he got angry and hung up on her. I really don't know what to think, and I still don't know. Right now, Nate is really upset, and he isn't talking to me much. He said that it's bad enough that Becca acted insane and ruined his plan to propose, but it's even worse that I believed her lies even a little and would think that he would ever cheat on me. Becca texted me saying she was sorry, but otherwise, I haven't talked to her either. I don't want to think that Nate would cheat on me or that he would have done this to Becca, but I feel like I can't be 100% sure because I've known Becca for 13 years, and I also just can't believe that she had lied to me about something this important. And I know that she does have a problem with her drinking, so I can believe that she would have done this with my boyfriend. She's done some pretty awful things in the past, but I don't want to wrongly accuse Nate of something he didn't do, but I don't want to be an idiot. Update. So on Thursday night, after I got everyone's advice, I told Nate that I had found out a way to recover deleted messages from Signal. He immediately took out his phone and opened the app and asked me to show him how to do it, so I already thought that must mean he was telling me the truth, because he didn't panic or hesitate at all, which was good, because when I tried to download Signal on my old phone, it turned out that it's too old to support the current version of the app, so it wouldn't work. Nate then asked me if we were going to have to go out and buy a new phone for me to believe that he was telling me the truth, and he said that he was willing to do it if that's what it would take. I told Nate it wasn't that I didn't believe him, I just wanted to have some proof, because I couldn't understand why Becca would lie about this. Nate said that she would lie about it because she's a crazy jerk, and there's literally no way for a non-crazy person to understand why she would do anything. And once the messages proved that, he didn't want me ever talking to her again. Then he said to get up, because if we're going to go to the Verizon store, we had to get there before it closed. By then, I completely believed Nate anyway, so I told him we didn't have to go anywhere or get a new phone, and that I believed him, and I knew he didn't cheat on me, and that he would never do that. Nate said that he would hope I know that, and that he didn't understand why I didn't take his word for it in the first place. I started trying to explain why I didn't want to just immediately dismiss what Becca had said happened, but Nate said that he really couldn't listen to that right now. I said that was fair and agreed that I would cut Becca off, but that first I wanted to try to get her to admit that nothing happened. Nate said fine, but to call her with my phone on speaker because he thought he also deserved to hear her admit that she was lying. So I called Becca and I said the same thing to her that I said to Nate, that I figured out how to recover deleted messages on Signal. She asked me why I would need to do that, so that was when I knew for sure that she was definitely making it up and not just confused somehow. I said it was because I wanted to have proof of what she and Nate talked about. Becca asked me if I saw their messages, so I lied and said yes. After that, Becca just went silent until finally I asked her if she was going to say anything. Then she asked me if that meant we were engaged now. So then I really just lost it on her and screamed at her, asking her what was wrong with her, and how could that possibly be all she had to say. Becca started screaming back, telling me to calm down, and about how obviously I never believed her anyway, because it's not like we broke up over it. I was crying by that point, and because of that, I couldn't really say anything else. So then Nate told Becca to buzz off and to never ever contact either of us again, and he hung up on her. A minute later, Becca sent me a completely unhinged text that I'm quoting here verbatim.
Courtney, you're supposed to be my friend for life. You're supposed to be there for me. You're supposed to be my person. But then you meet Nate, and now you only care about Nate. Everything is about Nate. Tell me why Nate comes to pick me up when I called you. I called you, not your precious Nate. I only want you to see how messed up that is, but do you? No, of course you don't. Of course you choose Nate over me. You always do, and you always will. You pretend to care about me, but I can see you don't care. It's pathetic, Courtney. You are a pathetic woman who would choose a man over a friend. But since you can't say it yourself, I will. Since you have to have your sweet, perfect little baby Nate do it for you, I will. Goodbye, Courtney. Is that what you want? Goodbye forever. I hope you get what you want.
There were still the 3 dots before that showing that she was still typing, but I blocked her before she sent it. I don't care about anything else she has to say. I'm sure it's all just going to be more BS about why this is my fault, or justifications about why she did what she did and how I should forgive her. I know Nate is probably right, and there's no non-crazy logic behind why Becca would stoop to doing something like this. But obviously, I've still been thinking about it, and my best guess is that whoever said that Becca still blames me and Nate, apparently mostly Nate, for her being a drunk mess who can't get her life together is right. It seems like she somehow thought that if she hooked up with Nate, I'd break up with him, but still want to be friends with her, and then everything would magically be fixed. As far as stuff with Nate, I asked him if he thought he could ever forgive me for doubting him, and he said that since I came to my senses and I cut Becca off, he guesses we can try to put this behind us. I don't think he's still going to propose anytime soon. After this, I probably wouldn't if I were him. And from what Nate said, he didn't actually do any planning yet, other than asking Becca about rings, and if I'd think a public proposal was tacky or not. All he was doing so far was trying to get ideas without me knowing he was talking to her about it. So, just based on that, I think probably it's not going to happen for a while, if it still does happen at all. I'm sure she won't just go away. I'm already expecting her to try to get our other friends to get in the middle of everything as soon as she figures out she's actually blocked and I'm not just ignoring her. I hope she won't try to do anything else, but I guess at this point, I really can't know with her. I'm hoping things are okay with Nate. I think in a while they will be. My boyfriend of 5 years told me he does not want to have kids. Help. I, 27 female, have been together with my boyfriend, who's also 27, for 5 years now. We moved in together quite early in our relationship, and everything was great until November of last year, when we decided to get a cat. I had been wanting to have a cat for a long time, and in 2021, I asked him if we could get one. He told me he was not really a cat or a pet person in general, and he didn't think it was a good idea since we both work full-time. It made sense at the time, so I accepted and never mentioned it again. Until August of 2022, when he suggested we should get one, as he knew it would make me very happy. I was over the moon, and we got our kitty in October of 2022. In December of 2022, we got a second kitty. Cats are very social animals, and they are way happier if they're not alone. My boyfriend was not very sure about it, but I convinced him. I love them so much. Yes, they are a big responsibility, and yes, they do make a lot of work, but I don't care. They're 100% worth it. I'm the one who takes care of them. My boyfriend does not need to do anything. He had to feed them a couple of times since I was away for work, but that's it. A couple of months ago, we had a big fight. We've been having some trust issues. I caught him lying a couple of times, hence my trust issues, and the situation was really tense between us. During this fight, he told me he did not feel comfortable anymore at home because of the cats. He told me they make him nervous when they run around and play. It bothers him that we now have a cat tree and that there are cat toys laying around the house. You get it. During this fight, he also told me he wanted us to give the cats away. I stopped him and told him that I'm not the kind of person who gets pets to give them away later. My family and I have always had pets, and our last dog was with us for 17 years until she passed away. I love pets, and I see them as part of the family. Once they are here, they do not go anywhere. Since the day that I got them, they became my responsibility, and I could never do that to them. I would never forgive myself. I told him we would find a solution and make it work. Again, I'm the one who takes care of them. I clean the cat toilet twice a day and always vacuum and dust everything when I get home from work. I keep the house clean, but cats are cats. You can't control them like a dog. Don't get me wrong, they're not badly behaved. They're just really cuddly and they follow me everywhere. But they're cats. The situation between us was still tense because of the trust issues, but I thought that we were on good terms regarding the cats. A month ago, we had another fight that had nothing to do with them, but he told me he could not live with them anymore, and they had to leave. He says he can't relax when he gets home from work because they're here. I reminded him I would not give the cats away. I also reminded him he was the one who suggested getting one, and I don't think he's being fair. He also knew what it was like to live with cats. His parents had 3 when he lived with them. He told me he knew it was his idea and he regretted suggesting it. I thought it could not get any worse, but then it did. He said, "If I'm being serious, I don't think I even want to have kids." I froze and asked him if he was being serious. For me, it was clear that we were on the same page about kids. My fault, I guess. We had never had a serious conversation about it, but when we spoke about our future, I always mentioned kids, and he never said that he didn't want to have any. He said it was not a 100% no to kids, but he could not imagine his life with kids right now. I told him I couldn't imagine my life with kids right now either. We're still young and we're focused on our careers, but that I am 100% sure that I want to have them in the future. I've always known I wanted to become a mom. I told him I did not want to pressure him, but that I would really appreciate if he could be honest with me, and himself, since this is kind of a deal breaker. I also told him I did not expect an answer very soon, since it is a life-changing decision, but in a year or 2, I would like to know for sure. We left it at that. Today, we had another conversation/fight. As I mentioned, the situation is tense between us, but we've been trying to make it work. Today, he told me once again that the cats have to leave. I said they're not going anywhere. He said he couldn't believe that they are more important to me than he is. I told him that has nothing to do with it, but they are not toys you can take or give away as you please. We went back and forth for a while. Then the topic of kids came up again. This time, he told me that he's pretty sure he does not want to have any. Not now, not in the future. I didn't know what to say. He asked me if I was 100% sure I do want to have them, and I said yes. I asked him what he expected me to do now. Give the cats away and then not have any pets ever again and not have kids either? He said yes. He asked if he is not enough to make me happy. I told him he makes me really happy, but I have to be honest with him and with myself, and I know I would not be happy without kids. There was a lot of silence. He's gone now to stay with a friend. I'm home thinking about what we said. This is a deal breaker, right? I'm starting to doubt myself. What if we go separate ways and I never meet anybody I want to have kids with? I'm just really scared and I don't know what to do. Is this the end? 3 months ago, I was sure we would get married and have a family together. Last year, I was waiting for a proposal. I also live in a foreign country. I already lived here before we met. I didn't come here because of him, but it makes it 1,000 times worse being away from my family and friends. Update. Many of you asked what was the reason for the trust issues. I don't know if you read my comments, but I caught him lying about having drinks with a coworker we had already had fights about. He knew what my position was about this girl. This happened in December of last year, 2 days after my birthday. I forgave him and told him that if he wanted me to trust him, he needed to be 100% honest with me. I also asked him to keep their relationship 100% professional. I mean, I know they work together and will still have to have contact with each other. 2 months later, I saw he had received a pretty long message on his phone. Out of curiosity, I asked who it was. He said it didn't matter. I'm sorry, what? I asked him to show it to me and he didn't want to. I mean, if you don't have anything to hide, what's the problem? Yes, he was texting with her. He told me everything had to do with work. He also told me they just kind of had the same humor and just kind of got each other. I guess there's nothing wrong with that, right? I told him once again that I didn't have a good feeling about this girl. I told him clearly what my boundaries were. He told me he understood, he didn't want to lose me and he loved me. I believed him once again. My mistake. So now we come to yesterday after our conversation. He told me he needed some fresh air and went out. He didn't come back in for several hours and I thought he had went to a birthday party with a friend. I thought this was kind of weird after such a conversation. Anyways, around 21 p.m., I get a text message from a mutual friend asking me if she and another friend could come over. I thought this was kind of weird. We always did things together in a group, with our partners and other friends, but never alone. I told her they could come over. Once they arrived, I saw immediately there was something really wrong. I could tell that they were really nervous, and one of them was about to burst into tears. She told me she was really sorry, but she needed to tell me something. Turns out she was out with her boyfriend and some friends when they saw my boyfriend drinking a beer on a terrace. He was sitting at a table with a girl. She thought it was me and went to say hi. Once she got closer, she could tell it was not me. It was his coworker. They were holding hands. She knew about my issues with this girl. I had told her what had happened. She went up to them and said, "Hello," in a sarcastic way. She says their faces went white, but he quickly changed and asked if they wanted to join them, as if there was nothing wrong with the fact they were together. She said no and left, and then texted me. I just couldn't believe what I was hearing. I had been so sad the whole day, but now I was just feeling angry and disappointed. I didn't know what to do. I couldn't stay home, just waiting for him to come back. I also don't think that he imagined my friend would come tell me what she had seen. The girls stayed with me, and I told them what happened earlier in the day, and how I could not believe that the first thing he did after that was going to her. I knew I needed to see them with my own eyes and make sure he knew I saw them. I knew approximately where the girl lived, so I asked them if they would come with me on a drive just to check it out. We arrived, and I kid you not, after 2 minutes of us being there, we see them coming around the corner, driving an electric scooter together. He was driving and she was holding on from behind. They didn't see us. Once they parked, they started walking to a building where she lived. I saw him hugging her and giving her a kiss on her cheek. I also saw him putting his arm around her shoulders while they were walking. Everything is on video since my friend started recording when they arrived. I run up to them and told him what a complete jerk he is. His face once he saw me was again completely white. He asked what was going on. "What do you mean what's going on?" I told him I didn't want to see him ever again and I left. We were in the car about to leave as he came running around the corner to talk to me. He told me once again he did not understand what was going on. I asked him what he was doing with her, holding hands and kissing her on the cheek. All in all, his explanation was that he went to her looking for some advice regarding the kids topic. He said he didn't want to lose me and was just trying to figure out what to do. He told me she was his only female friend he could trust. I told him that still didn't explain why he would be holding hands with her or kissing her on the cheek. He said that was his way of thanking her. Are you kidding me? I'm still in shock and I can't believe this has happened. I'm so happy my friends were there too and made a video, because of course he has already tried denying what I saw. He came home, we argued about it, and he kept saying he just wanted to get some advice from a female friend. He said he was sorry about the kiss, but he denied putting his arm around her. I told him I have it on video. He also kept saying that he never kissed her on her lips or hooked up, so he hadn't done anything wrong nor crossed any boundary. I told him there were many other ways to cross a boundary, and I reminded him how I had clearly told him before what my boundaries were. I really can't believe he thinks he hasn't done anything wrong. He also said he can't believe I was thinking about leaving because of some cats and some kids that we don't even have yet. I'm completely heartbroken. I never thought he was this way. I always thought he was a good guy. He was always supportive, kind, attentive, and made me feel loved, and now everything has turned into a nightmare. Update. To summarize, I found some receipts from a zoo and train tickets going to another city. The train tickets were from May, and when I checked the date, I realized it was a holiday. I remember I had the day off, but he told me he had to work. He left for work and left me alone the whole day. He came back really late that day. There was no explanation as to why he would have gone to that city without telling me. The zoo ticket was from only a few days before, so already after I had seen him with her on the street. I confronted him with the receipts. I could tell he was caught off guard by his reaction, and he admitted he had gone to that city and to the zoo with her. So I asked him to stop being a coward and to tell me the truth for once, that I deserved a little honesty. He admitted to secretly seeing her a couple of times since December. He says 4 to 5 times. I think it was a lot more. He also admitted to kissing her, but only 4 times, which of course I didn't believe was only 4 times. His excuse was that he had been having so much stress at work, and at home things weren't going great either, so he just needed to disconnect and do something else without thinking about problems. I told him that was not an excuse for cheating on me. Also, in his opinion, what he did isn't cheating. I felt heartbroken, but also relieved because for once I felt I had a little bit of the truth. I also felt relieved to know I was not crazy and that my intuition was right the whole time about this girl. Since then, he's apologized and has told me, "Oh, come on, just break up with this guy. That's it, break up with him. God!" Since then, he has apologized and has told me that he loves me and that what he did was the greatest mistake of his life and he will forever regret it. I told him a mistake happens once, but 4 to 5 times is a conscious decision. He has asked me to give him another chance and that he will show me I can trust him and to think about how happy we were together before everything happened. I told him I had been very happy with him, but that everything is ruined now. This is a really summarized update, but I think you get the idea of what's been going on the last few months. I don't really want to go into much detail since it all still hurts a lot to me. On a positive note, I've now finally found an apartment for me and my cats. It's unbelievably difficult to find one in my city. We'll be moving out soon, and I'm excited for what the future brings. I also have had my first therapy sessions, which I'm also really excited about. I have a lot of contradictory feelings and emotions that I need to work through. I thank you all for reading my posts and for your kind words. And for me, I know I need time to heal, but it will only get better from now on. I never understood guys like this. If you don't want her, leave. She gave you so many outs. You have the other girl, and you clearly don't like this one very much. So just let her go live her life. OP is way too forgiving. She wasted 5 years of her life, bought the sunk cost fallacy, and wasted more time. I got so frustrated at the last update, seeing that she kept him around after catching him with the other woman, for weeks. I mean, if it were me, we would have been done as soon as he told me to get rid of my cats. But the fact she caught him cheating and didn't leave immediately is absolutely stunning. Had a late night visiting couple literally get the cops involved because I didn't accept their ID. I manage a restaurant, and last night I was closing. We have this younger looking couple come in 9 minutes before we close. I know it was 9 minutes because I looked at the clock and it said 9:51. So obviously everyone's very annoyed. And before y'all get on me about customer service, anyone in this subreddit that's been in the industry for a decent amount of time knows how it is. People showing up a few minutes before your closing straight up ruins the night. My employee walks up to me and tells me he isn't sure about this couple's IDs. He brings the IDs to me, and I go to the bar and get the handy little ID checking book that shows you what legitimate IDs look like. The girl was from Texas, but the guy was from Nevada, which, while obviously not always the case, can typically be a red flag number 1. In checking both of the IDs, I saw some things that could have been irregularities. I'm not saying they were for sure. The IDs could have been valid, but it just kind of rubbed me the wrong way. Maybe I was a little biased because I was already upset that they decided to come in so late on a night we would have been out early since there was no one else in the restaurant. But I wasn't really thinking about that, they just didn't look good to me. So I walk over to the table and I let them know, and obviously they start the whole shebang. Until the girl says,
We just left Brick House because they didn't accept our IDs, and now you're telling us that we can't get a drink here?
which was pretty stupid of her to say, honestly. So I call Brick House and speak to the manager. If they just sent a couple home, and the manager says the same thing, that the IDs just didn't look like they were valid, so he didn't serve them. I go up and I tell the table this as well, and by this point, we're closing in 2 minutes, so I got really happy because I know at this point it doesn't matter. I went to my bartender and told her to turn off the TV, shut everything down, let me run her checkout, and get out of the restaurant. I went up to the couple and told them about the call, and the girl gets offended and decides she wants to call the cops, so the cops can come and check her ID to prove she's 21. I let out a chuckle because I thought the whole thing was ridiculous, and I just told her to go ahead, and I go about doing more of my closing stuff. A few minutes later, I get the closers' checkouts, and everyone checked out of side work, so it doesn't really matter at this point. But sure enough, the cop pulls up maybe 5 or 10 minutes after we closed. I explain the situation to him, and then he tells me that if I don't want to serve them, it's my right. But he checks their IDs anyway in his system, and lo and behold, he couldn't find anything on the one from Nevada. Which I didn't know you can check IDs from other states as a cop, but whatever. But the other ID checked out. Anyways, after the other ID checked out, the girl says,
Okay, well, can we just order a drink for me and our food?
I was so giddy and just said, We're actually closed now. The bartender is gone and we can't serve after our closing time, and all of my servers are gone and my kitchen is closing down. She looked like I had just chalked her. She started arguing with me, saying we didn't give them a chance to order anything, and I just said, Ma'am, if you would just put in your order instead of calling the cops and turning this into a whole thing, it would have been good, but we're closed now. I've been checked out of this job for a very long time, and I'm actually in school so I can change careers, so I admittedly haven't watched my tone much as of late. Anyways, long story short, they wrote in about me, and I had to talk to my proprietor, his boss, and his boss's boss, and explain the situation to them. They think I handled it professionally, so I'm not in trouble or anything, but it just made me happy to win a battle in this industry for a change. Am I the jerk for being mean to my ex about child support? I got pregnant at 28 with my daughter, and her dad ghosted me and ignored every call and text I ever sent. I made an honest effort to track him down so that he could know his daughter and for her to know her father. I even contacted his relatives and was also ignored. I finally gave up after about 3 years because I was a single parent and I just needed to move on. Fast forward to her being 5 years old and starting to ask questions on why everyone else had a dad but not her. It was hard for me to answer because I didn't want to strain her mind, just in case he starts coming around. But I feel father-daughter relationships are important and my opinion of him was not hers. I told her he's working far away and I had lost contact with him. I met my now husband, who has 2 sons, shortly after she turned 5. We're happy and things are great. The 5-year struggles my daughter and I had are finally behind us. A year later, I was working at a dealership and guess who walks in? Yup, her deadbeat dad. But not just him. He was with a woman and a daughter and a baby in tow. I didn't want to make a scene at my work, so I made sure he didn't see me. But when he left, I went to the sales associate they were talking to. I explained the situation and he was more than happy to pass along the number he gave them. I wanted to talk to my husband to see if I should just let it go or try to pursue some child support. We both agreed that it's the right of the child to have that support and would give her a better quality of life. So I sent him a message saying who I was and that it's time he starts to contribute to our daughter and we could work something out together without going to court. Lawyers are expensive. He agreed but wanted a paternity test. I understand that and agreed, and I told him to set it up. He mentioned he doesn't make a lot of money and wouldn't be able to afford much, but a little is better than nothing. Then I was ghosted again. A couple of years and some court hearings later, he was finally paying me child support. I didn't go after back support because I realized he has another family. Mr. I don't make much has actually been earning $200,000 a year this whole time. Judge ordered him to pay child support based on his yearly earnings and back support for the 2 years he wasted the court's time when he should have been paying. He wasn't happy about that, but in my opinion, it's his own mess. Now he's never paid on time or in full and has an excuse every time. I've had enough and gave him a piece of my mind and I didn't hold back. He says I'm the jerk because I don't know or care about his situation. It's very easy for someone to make me feel guilty, so now I'm wondering if I'm the jerk. Not the jerk. I wouldn't bother calling him again. Instead, notify the authorities when he doesn't pay on time. They'll garnish his wages so that you never have to worry about payments being late again. Not the jerk. This guy is a deadbeat and the legal system doesn't look kindly on it. His situation is that he has a kid and has a legal obligation towards that kid. He's not some victim or martyr.
My brother's girlfriend sent me a list of chores I need to do before my Easter celebration. I'm male, 31. My brother, Tom, who's 28, has a girlfriend named Harper, who's 25. They've dated for 4 years. They aren't married, they never want to, but Harper calls herself a sister-in-law. They have no kids and Harper doesn't work. This would be fine if they didn't struggle financially. They had to move in with my parents because of debt. My family thinks Harper is lazy and she compensates by being a perfect housewife. Harper puts all of her free time into party planning, as in planning our family's birthdays and holidays, which we never asked for and don't like. She treats every event like it's a wedding and she the wedding planner. For context, she makes spreadsheets of all the things to do weeks in advance. These people are in charge of the food. This many people, this budget, these options, up for debate later. These people do decorations, cleaning up before and after, color scheme and attire suggestions. These people do entertainment, karaoke, games, music, playlists, movies, slideshows. My family collectively rolls our eyes and says things like, Harper, it's a birthday for a 1-year-old, my 1-year-old. There will be 10 people there, so buzz off with this list. Harper pouts and is moody at the events because if only we did it this way, it would have been so much more special and memorable. I'm hosting Easter at my house because I have a large yard for the kids to hunt eggs. As usual, Harper sent the family spreadsheets for the event. Apparently, my job as host is to properly clean my house, weed and mulch my flower beds, and remove a dead tree on the edge of the property. There was a tips and tricks for lawn care she added at the bottom. Harper has decided to cook the food. Her budget is $120, $155 if I want a cake. I emailed her back and simply said, "Who invited you?" She sent me a bunch of question marks. I texted back, "Unfortunately, there will be no +1s to watch my kids find eggs in the yard. If I let my brother bring a date, then I'd have to let my other guests bring dates,
and we have already hit our budget of buying a grocery store ham. Sorry, I'm sure you understand how things are. Best wishes." She stopped talking to me. My brother is mad at me. My dad thinks I'm petty. My sisters couldn't care less, and my mom is happy though. She hates Harper. My wife wants me to act my age and stop this drama, but because it's my family, she's leaving it as my decision. Am I the jerk for banning Harper? Edit. Harper started making the spreadsheets when she and my brother moved in with my parents. We told her thanks but no. Every get-together, she wanted to add a few $100s to it of our money. We firmly said no, and she continues to give us passive-aggressive comments about not making our family moment special. I don't consider her family. No one does, not even my brother. He doesn't want to marry her because this is just another girlfriend to him. Their relationship is toxic. I didn't mention it because that's not the problem right now. I'm rude to her, I admit it. Last edit. Wow, a lot of comments. Thanks for the responses. I'm glad to know many feel my response was justified, but will also consider the advice from those that feel I should be the better person. To answer the many asking about my brother, their relationship, and my parents' place in it, my brother is a jerk. I know it, my family knows it. He has strung Harper along for years, and we assumed they would break up long before now. Harper treats him like a king, does everything for him, so that's why he's still with her, but has told us she's just another girlfriend. My dad spoils my brother and pressured my mom to take her in along with my brother. My mom hates Harper. My other two siblings, sisters, are low contact, and I am low contact as well. When Harper moved in with my parents, she really pushed for a family connection, correcting us to call her a sister-in-law, not a girlfriend, being a part of all family events, controlling them really. We've shut her down every time, but she pretends like it's never an issue, so we ignore her now. Entitled Mom tries to set her daughter up with my uncle, whilst my cousin is on the ground, in pain. Cast. We've got me, irrelevant, my name's Benjamin if it helps. We've got Sarah, my cousin. We've got Uncle Sam, my uncle. We've got the embarrassed girl, you'll see why. And we've got Entitled Mother, who should probably take a parenting class. It was the summer break. Like I said, I was 13 at the time, and parents were off in Canada visiting some relatives of my mother, leaving me with aunt and uncle for the week. Yay. We were at the park. I was watching Sarah, who was 10 at the time, while she played with the other kids to make sure she didn't get into any trouble or whatever. My uncle was watching from a nearby bench. All of a sudden, this girl, who looked to be about 18, walked up to my uncle. This part is paraphrased dialogue, of course, since I was too busy watching Sarah at the time. Embarrassed girl.
Hey there, good looking.
Uncle Sam. Oh, hello. Can I help you? Embarrassed girl. Prepare to cringe.
Just wondering, what's a hunk like you doing in a dump like this?
Wait, if it's a dump, why was she there? Strange, no? Uncle Sam. Well, Embarrassed girl.
Oh, never mind. Would you like to go get a coffee with me or something?
Uncle Sam. Sorry, but how old are you exactly? Unfortunately, the girl perceived that question as him being interested in her, which was the furthest thing from the truth.
Oh, you do want to go out with me, don't you? Not a surprise, considering how hot I am.
Please, someone send the cringe police. I'm dying just writing this. Uncle Sam. No, I'm married. I'm just asking because you don't look older than 18. The embarrassed girl, from what my uncle told me, looked embarrassed and red in the face when my uncle mentioned that he was married. She then mumbled that she was, in fact, 18 years old. I think it's worth noting that my uncle is the same age as my aunt, which at this point in time would have been 35. Uncle Sam informed her as much, and the girl looked even more embarrassed. She mumbled some awkward apology and walked away. 5 minutes later, Entitled Mom appears, with embarrassed girl apparently telling her to stop in the background. Entitled Mom. Excuse me? Uncle Sam. Yes, can I help you? He's a polite dude. Are you the man my daughter talked to earlier? Uncle Sam, awkward laugh. Yeah, I am. So, what's wrong with her? I'm sorry? You heard me. Why won't you go out with her? Uncle Sam. Oh, well, I'm married. Not to mention, she's kind of younger than me. Entitled Mom lets out that classic Karen scoff. Oh, come on. You're only 20. You're not that much older than her. I'm 35, actually. Oh, shut it, kid. You can't be older than 23. You just want an excuse not to date my daughter. Now, I will say that my uncle does look slightly younger than he is, but if you looked at his face at the time, The youngest you could think he was 30. How this woman thought my uncle was 15 years younger than he actually was is beyond my understanding. Uncle Sam: Lady, I don't really care what you think. I'm 35, and whether you believe me or not, that's an undeniable fact. And even if I was 20, I don't have any obligation to date your daughter.
Don't be selfish. She's recently had a breakup, and it's been really hard on her. You don't want to break the heart of a girl who's going through a tough time.
I'm sorry to hear that, but again, I'm 35 and married.
So what? Age is just a number. What matters is that you love the one you are with.
Embarrassed girl: Mom, stop. Uncle Sam: Lady, you shouldn't be encouraging this kind of stuff to happen.
Are you insulting my parenting?
No. At that point, I came running towards Uncle Sam because whilst he was having that conversation with entitled Mom, my cousin ended up twisting her ankle while playing, which caused her to scream in pain. I'm a fool. I have failed my duty. So I immediately panicked and ran off to get my Uncle Sam. I told him what happened, and he went with me to Sarah, who was on the floor with the other adults trying to help and calm her down, crying in pain. My uncle went into Papa Bear mode and motioned to help my cousin, but entitled Mom had other plans in mind and followed him. She said this:
Hey, don't ignore me. I was talking to you. What's wrong with my daughter? Why is she not...
Now, my Uncle Sam is not normally a confrontational person, but the fact that this lady was still trying to set him up with her daughter, despite my cousin was on the floor in obvious pain, really set him off. He interrupted her, shouting, "Lady, shut up!" The entitled Mom stopped the minute my uncle shouted, "Uncle Sam, you can clearly see my daughter is on the floor in pain, yet the only thing you can think about is getting a date for yours. Buzz off now and let me help my kid." The entitled Mom was shocked by Uncle's shouting and looked like she was about to say something else, but after seeing that people were shooting her some dirty looks, she just took her embarrassed daughter and left. After that, we took my cousin home and treated her twisted ankle the best we could. My uncle hadn't seen the lady ever since then, but honestly, I'm kind of wondering what was going through her brain. Like, why was she looking for dates for her daughter in the park? Did she honestly think that their age difference was fine? On the subject of age, did she actually believe my uncle was 15 years younger than he actually was? Or was she just looking for an excuse for him to date her, considering she switched gears and tried to pull the "age is just a number" card? This lady was so weird, I wouldn't be surprised if she was responsible for the pickup lines that her daughter tried to use. I also wouldn't be surprised if the whole breakup story was just to guilt trip my uncle. But I don't know anything about their lives, so it could be true. Well, I hope you liked this one, I guess. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard.
Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.